in the chamber this afternoon to necessitate the House to commence business this afternoon. But away from that, the report of the extraordinary session of the 6th Pan-African Parliament, PAP, is a motion lined up for debate this afternoon. The National Police Service Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 23 of the year 2024, is yet another matter in today's order paper for consideration. The quorum has been achieved. Allow me to hand you over back to the House.
Okay. They are from where? Global Health. Okay. Okay. Clerk, now we have quorum. Can you?
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Those on their feet, take your seats. Honourable members, I've got 2 pieces of communication. The first one is in relation to authenticity and admissibility of papers tabled by the member for Mukurweini. Honourable members, you recall that during the afternoon sitting of Wednesday, 20th November 2024, the Cabinet Secretary for Education appeared before the House to respond to questions asked by members. In that sitting, while asking a supplementary question to question number 096 of 2024, relating to the University of Nairobi, the member for Mukurweini, the Honourable John Kagusha, MP, made various claims on management and operational issues at the University of Nairobi. In line with the Standing Order 91, the Honourable Kagusha tabled copies of documents from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, the Commission for University Education, CUE, the University of Nairobi, UON, and the Pontifical Urbania University to substantiate the claims. Honourable members, I directed the clerk to examine the documents and advise on their authenticity and admissibility, and the clerk has since discharged that responsibility. In this regard, I have determined that the documents from the EACC and the Commission for University Education as submitted by the Honourable Kagusha are authentic, admissible, and now form part of the record of the House. I'll guide the House on the remaining documents once they are authenticated. Thank you. Is Kagusha in? Not yet. Honourable members, the second communication is on proposed amendments to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2024. Honourable members, before we proceed to the order on this matter, being the Committee of the whole House to consider the ethics Corruption Amendment Bill, National Assembly. I wish to make the following guidance relating to consideration of the proposed amendments to the said bill. So whoever, Deputy Speaker, will be chairing the Committee of the Whole, you take into account this communication. Members at the bar, take the nearest seats. The nearest seats, CNN. Kailemia, take the nearest seat. Okay. Honorable members, as you may have observed, the notices annexed to the supplementary order paper for the afternoon sitting contains several amendments that have been proposed to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2024. The amendments have been proposed by the leader of the majority party, the chairperson of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, the Honorable Carolo Mondi, MP, and the Honorable Shakil Shabir, MP. Honorable members, Standing Order 47.3 obligates the Speaker to exclude a motion from being debated or direct the amendment of a motion in an appropriate format where the motion either offends the Constitution, an act of Parliament, or the standing orders. The standing orders provide, and I quote, if the Speaker is of the opinion that any proposed motion, A, is one which infringes on the debate on which is likely to infringe any of these standing orders, or B, is contrary to the Constitution or an act of Parliament without expressly proposing appropriate amendment to the Constitution or the Act of Parliament, the Speaker may direct either that the motion is inadmissible or that notice of it cannot be given without such alteration as the Speaker may approve, or that the motion be referred to the relevant committee of the Assembly pursuant to Article 1142 of the Constitution. Honorable members, with respect to amendments proposed to a bill under consideration by the House, the Speaker is obligated to ensure that the bill under consideration by the House is insulated from any amendment or revision that may place it at odds with either a constitutional or statutory provision or violate the procedural prescriptions of the standing orders. Both I and my predecessors have ruled on the solemn duty outlined in Standing Orders 47.3. On several occasions, we have reiterated that a Speaker cannot fold his or her arms and preside over deliberations that may lead to an unconstitutional or absurd result. Additionally, we have also consistently ruled that the question of the constitutionality of a matter under consideration by the House should not be put to a vote. Honorable members, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2024, is one of the bills that were co-sponsored by the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party to actualize the recommendations of the National Dialogue Committee, NADCO. The bill seeks to amend the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Act, Cap 7H, to review the qualifications for appointment of the chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Clause 2 of the bill outlines the proposed new qualifications. Additionally, honorable members, Clause 3 of the bill saves the person currently serving as the EACC chairperson from the effect of the reviewed qualifications if the same are passed by the House. This is in keeping with the practice of this House when reviewing the provisions relating to the qualifications or terms of persons appointed to public office. Honorable members, in the notice, in the order paper for this sitting, the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs, the Honorable JLAC, the Honorable Carole Omondi, MP, and the Honorable Shakil Shabir, MP, all propose amendments to delete Clause 3 of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Amendment Bill 2024, National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2024. The implication of their proposed amendment is that if the House were to pass the new qualifications contained in the bill, the qualifications would immediately apply to the current holder of the office. Honorable members, the proposed deletion of Clause 3 by the chairperson of JLAC, the Honorable Carole Omondi, and the Honorable Shakil Shabil flies directly in the face of the provisions of Article 250 of the Constitution on the composition, appointment, and terms of office of members of a commission or holders of independent offices. In particular, Article 253 of the Constitution provides that for a person to be appointed as a member of a commission or the holder of an independent office, such a person must have the specific qualifications required by this Constitution or national legislation. Honorable members, this House approved the appointment of the ESCC chairperson based on the specific qualifications required by the Constitution and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Act, Cap 7H. It will therefore patently offend the Constitution for the House to contemplate amending the qualifications midstream and to subject a current office holder to a new qualifications without providing an appropriate saving or transitional provision. In this regard, therefore, honorable members, I have declined to approve the amendments proposed by the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs, the Honorable Carole Omondi, MP, and the Honorable Shakil Shabir, MP, for the deletion of Clause 3 of the bill. I have approved the amendment proposed by the leader of the majority party to Clause 3 of the bill for consideration by the Committee of the Whole House. The proposed amendment is in keeping with the requirement of the Constitution and the established practice of the House and as cited in this communication. This House is accordingly guided. Honorable Judge Best, I hope you have heard me.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've heard you, and partly I'm in agreement, partly as I'm entitled, I may not agree because of two reasons. Number one, the bill is not going to act in retrospect. The amendments will have to apply, possibly to the next office holders. Number two is that we cannot take away accrued rights of an individual, especially in this instance, the person of the chairperson of the ESCC. That position has accrued to him in accordance with the act that is in force now, and any amendments would possibly not apply to him. But I'm bound by the chair, and I will abide by that ruling and observation by the chair, and it doesn't do any harm.
Even your words that you have said do not indicate any dissent. So yes, you can take your seat.
Correct. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Avoid any situation of legislating people out of office when they have a contractual arrangement. Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, November 27th, 2024, afternoon sitting. Reports of the Auditor General and Financial Statement for the years ended 30th June 2021, 30th June 2022, and 30th June 2023, and the certificates therein in respect of number 1, Giriftu Secondary School, 2, Makwa Boys Secondary School, 3, Nairobi Schools, and 4, Limuru Girls Secondary School. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to lay.
Chairperson, Public Petitions Committee, Nimrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 27th November 2024. Reports of the Public Petitions Committee on its considerations on number 1, Public Petition number 3 of 2023 by Mr. Amos Nyasani regarding the management of the standard gauge railway SGR services. Number 2, Public Petition number 31 of 2023 by the Honorable Ali Wario, MP, regarding a review of boundaries of the Tana Delta Irrigation Project. Number 3, in Keio North constituency. Number 6, Mr. Speaker, Public Petition number 45 of 2023 by the Honorable Chiforomodo Mangale, MP, regarding delayed adjudication and settlement of residents of Kidomaya Miungoni village in Vanga Ward, Kivengu sublocation. Mr. Speaker, number 7, Public Petition number 50 of 2023 by the Honorable Charles Onchonke, MP, regarding delayed payment of public pension by Kenya Railways Corporation. Public Petition number 82, that is number 8 of 2023 by the Honorable Badi Twali Badi, regarding the delay in the completion of the Jomvu Jitoni Rabai Road in Jomvu Sub-County. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, number 9, Public Petition number 6 of 2024 by the Honorable Robert Ukose, MP, regarding delays in posting medical interns, absorption of universal health coverage UHC contract staff, conclusion and collection bargaining agreement CBAS, and the health sector in the SLA. I would request to say the following. Honorable Speaker, in the beginning of this term, when the committee was formed, the Committee of Public Petitions, members were up to some point dissatisfied with the performance of the committee in generating the reports. But Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate your patience and advice to the committee, and also support, budgetary support and training programs to the members, and also qualified staff from the Parliamentary Service Commission who have been working with the committee to look into the petitions. Mr. Speaker, I want to assure members, before we proceed on the session this year, this committee will have no pending petition before the committee. All the other reports will be tabled next week, and by the start of next year, we will be starting with new petitions which are not yet brought to the House, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, and I beg to lay.
Well done, Nimrod. You are in focus for all the wrong reasons last time, and now you have done pretty well. Congratulations. Next, Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation. Is that? Yes, Alpha?
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 27th November 2024. Report on the Departmental Committee of Communication, Innovation and Communication on its consideration of the Public Relation and the Communication Management Bill, National Assembly, Bill number 17 of 2024. Thank you.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. Finance. Osoro, where is the chairman for finance?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the members of the Finance Committee and the Honorable Chair are conducting public participation, Honorable Speaker, for the tax law amendment.
Okay, we'll stay that to tomorrow. Next order. Yes, Ruku, what is it?
Honorable Speaker, in October, I think on 2nd, I asked for a statement.
Order, Honorable Ruku. We have not reached statements.
Which has never been responded.
You only legitimately raise that point of order when we reach that order. Next order. Before we call the next order, recognize a delegation from the gallery. The delegation comprises 6 members of staff from the Directorate of Hansard and Audio Services of the Parliament of Uganda, seated in the Speaker's gallery. The delegation is on a 1-week benchmarking visit to the National Assembly. They are welcome to observe the proceedings of the National Assembly. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notice of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Right. Order number 7, we start with member for Uasin Gishu, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to make a general statement regarding the UN Women's Report on Statistics of Gender-Based Violence and Femicide in Kenya as we start and mark the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 43.1, I wish to make a general statement regarding the UN Women's Report on Statistics of Gender-Based Violence and Femicide in Kenya as we mark the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Honorable Speaker, the report states that the reports on femicides in 2023, global by UN Women and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, reveals that femicide remains pervasive, considering that every 10 minutes, one woman or girl is killed by an intimate partner or family member. In 2023, 85,000 women and girls were intentionally killed globally, and 60% of these femicides, totaling 51,000, were committed by intimate partner or family member. This means that an average of 140 women and girls worldwide die every day at the hands of a partner or a close relative. Honorable Speaker, closer home, the statistical data provided by the report alarmingly reveals that Africa recorded the highest rates of intimate partner and family-related femicide. In addition, the Kenya Bureau of National Statistics indicates that 45% of women aged 15 to 49 have experienced physical violence, and that the main perpetrators of such violence against the women are husbands and intimate partners. I repeat, 45% of women aged between 15 and 49 have experienced physical violence. This is attributed to the deeply rooted patriarchal systems within African societies that afford men undue authority over women in nearly every aspect of their life, from politics, economics, to social norms. Statistical data continues to show the prevalence of social tolerance for violence against women in Kenya, with 42% of women and 36% of men believing that a man can be justified for beating his wife or partner under certain circumstances. This highlights the urgent need to address gender-based violence and femicide in Kenya through a comprehensive approach that includes legal reforms, social change, and increased awareness and support services. We must all become champions of the campaign within our political, religious, and societal spheres to eradicate the negative social norms and attitudes that normalize gender-based violence. Honorable Speaker, a home is known to be a place of refuge, but approximately 80% of femicides take place within the confines of a home, while 12% of male homicides are perpetrated within the home. This therefore calls upon us to make our homes safe again for women and girls. Male leaders particularly must take up the role of ensuring such safety within their communities and to speak up against femicide. We need male voices. Honorable Speaker, despite the progress made in the recent years, significant obstacles continue to block the path of women leaders to parity with their male counterparts. A landmark survey by the Inter-Parliamentary Union revealed that 82% of women parliamentarians worldwide have been subjected to psychological violence in form of sexist remarks, threats, and harassment. Gender-based violence is not only physical. Technology-facilitated violence has become the order of the day. Social media is the main platform for this type of abuse, where women lawmakers have been reported to receive death threats, rape threats, assault, abduction threats, and even not only towards themselves, but towards their families. These acts produces another form of gender-based violence, psychological abuse. Honorable Speaker, Chapter 4 of the Constitution, which is in the Bill of Rights recognizes the rights and fundamental freedoms of citizens and guarantees equality and freedom from discrimination of any form, including sex. Furthermore, Article 27(3) of the Constitution provides that women and men have rights to equal treatment, including the right to equal opportunities in political, economic, cultural, and social spheres. Other legal frameworks include the Sexual Offences Act, Cap 63A, Victims Protection Act, Cap 79A, Prohibition of Female Genital Mutilation, Cap 62, and Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, Cap 79C, which are laws that are in place to protect the various rights of women. Despite such broad legislative framework, the issue of gender-based violence and femicide continues to increasingly become prevalent in our society. Honorable Speaker, therefore, as we mark the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, I wish to implore my colleagues to be voices of awareness through recruiting the local churches to be our voice, the local schools, local community meetings, and dedicate and persuade our schools to dedicate at least an hour a week to teach our children about this matter. Honorable Speaker, as I finish, allow me to use this platform to plead with my colleagues, including our male colleagues, to join this campaign. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Millie, you want to joyride on that? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Gladys Boshole for that general statement marking the 16 days of activism on gender-based violence. For those who do not know why we mark the 16 days, there are two incidences that inspired this. One was the killing of the Mirabal sisters by the Trujillo dictatorship, Mr. Speaker, because of politics. They were basically women who wanted a different governance, and they were shot and killed by the Trujillo dictatorship in the Dominican Republic. Mr. Speaker, the other one involved a case in Canada where a young man walked into an engineering class and shot dead women because they were undertaking engineering, which he considered a male subject. And Mr. Speaker, those may be in the extreme, but what we are experiencing is different forms of violence against women. And of course, when we are marking gender-based violence, it's not just about women, but it is both men and women, except that we realize and acknowledge that women are disproportionately affected. whenever we raise these issues, people normally ask us, why do we keep talking about women? Even my deputy here has just challenged me and said, Millie, this week we are all talking about gender. In fact, I wanted to congratulate Honorable Esther Passaris for her commitment, because she has even been wearing orange.
Order, Millie. There's a point of order from Ruku.
Mr. Speaker, Miri, she is raising a very important...
Honorable Millie.
Honorable Miri, yes. She's raising a critical point, but you can see men are not listening. You can see Honorable Bui, Honorable CNN, Honorable Mwenje, they are busy discussing other issues. You know, and the issues of women are critical in our society. As the end of state said here, when this issue is being discussed here, Honorable Speaker, all men need to be attentive and the sun to see Honorable Bui and CNN very busy next to Honorable Miri,
yes,
when
Donya.
she is raising a critical point.
Honorable
Are they in order, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Donya, get the mic first.
Is he a god to know what they are discussing? And is even mentioning the names, the electorates are listening, that their members of parliament are idle. Can he apologize, Mr. Speaker? How has he known what they were discussing? Yet they were saying they are discussing about women affairs, how they are promoting the bills, and how they are supporting our speaker in parliament. Can he withdraw and apologize?
Millie, go on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I can see Donya is a very good student. And she has learned to be heard. You know, in my mother tongue, we say, Teloika or Telokumingat. Leadership is grabbed, it is not given. That is why my book is rigged or be rigged. Because if you don't rig, you are going to be rigged. But that having said that, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to pick on what Honorable Ruku has said, and I'm glad that he has brought attention to the male members. And I'm glad that it's brought especially to CNN. Honorable CNN, listen to me. Earlier today, we were talking about a member of parliament from Kiambu who said very derogative things about women, or is alleged to have said very derogative things about women. Mr. Speaker, I shared that on my page. And I hope the men in this house are listening. And don't blame women when you are not doing your roles. When I placed this on my page, Mr. Speaker, and I've also seen in the page of Honorable Mayaka, she has shared the same thing. Go and see what young men in their 20s are talking. Toxic. They are celebrating abuse of women, making women look like they are, objects, and actually allowing or encouraging abuse against women. And they are not old men. They are young men in their 20s. And we have been asking the women here that we are empowering young women. What happens to our boys? Can I empower young women, then I come and empower boys and you are in this house? The men in this house empower the boys. They are going astray. You are raising toxic people in this country. And unless, no, it is not us. I want to tell Honorable Osoro, this is a very serious issue, Mr.
Order.
Speaker. Unless we take this issue seriously, why would I call anybody Kadadi? But Mr. Speaker, at my age, I'm menopausal, I can't call anybody Kababa. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the men in this house need to understand, and I'm not taking this jokingly, our boys are going astray. I had said here, and Esther even said, that during that protest, they are sending us their private parts. A boy who is young enough to be my grandchild. What do I do? No. But us, at least the girls, we are mentoring them. You mentor the boys. Our boys are going off. Thank you, Honorable Gladys. Let me stop there, Mr. Speaker. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll end there on that. Yes, Kwenya. On the same issue?
Indeed, Mr. Speaker, I'll just allow me.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, this is a very important matter that has been brought to the attention of this House, and I really want to thank the Honorable Boss Sholei for the statement. But on the same, Mr. Speaker, issues to do with GBV are not squarely in the purview of our sisters and our ladies. It is a matter that is communal in terms of who should deal with these matters. And Mr. Speaker, I happen to be a father of girls. And indeed, it has come a time that we need to protect the gender that is endangered, that is women. Today we have predators in terms of men who will lure our girls, with cheap stuff, cheap lies, and lead them to danger. And Mr. Speaker, I wish to appeal to every leader who is worth their salt that it has come to a time when we must take charge of our children, we must take charge of our women, we must take charge of our men as well, because we are all endangered. Yesterday, I was looking at some clip of the kind of violence that is meeting both genders, and I mean both genders, so to say. And I thought to myself, as much as we are talking about our women, our girls.
Be careful, some of those clips are AI generated.
Yes, either way, we must address the real issues so that then we arrest this issue of gender violence. And Mr. Speaker, I really support that statement, and I believe these 16 days of activism, we are going to be available in our constituencies to address our people and to bring them to speed as to the dangers that we are facing today. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. On the same issue? Yes, who is the member at the back? Karima Bishop?
Yes. Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. The issue before us and the issue as it pertains to our boys and girls in Kenya and gender violence as it is, it should not be separated from the religious aspect of it altogether, because Kenya as a society is mainly a religious society. Over 70% are Christians, and the other, over 25% are Muslims, and then the rest other kind of religions. Speaker, as it is, for those young men and women who attended nursery schools in their churches, they have been mentally poisoned after they left their original backgrounds. And they have become bitter because from the one go, when we had a government before multi-party, there came a time when we used to promote only girls, whereby boys became jealous of the situation. Everywhere, up to and including Meru, there are Moi, Mao and girls, Kapropita girls, everywhere girls, everywhere girls. We forgot about the boy child. Then there came activism. When it came to activism, things were slumped on us as a society, the Kenyan society, and we forgot our culture and background, whereby boys used to protect their sisters in all aspects of life, and they used to look upon them as their young mothers and future wives, whereby each used to feel obliged to protect a girl next to him, even when we were in primary schools. And now it comes that we are competing for the few resources which are there, and we have removed religion from the actual society which is existing. Like in this house, when it comes to debate issues, especially pertaining to parenthood, sexuality, and different genders, we talk and mention things which are not mentionable outside this house. And as for that, things are taken for granted outside. So violence is entrenched in our young men through adult entrances. And as for that, we must come out with the policies. We must come out as leaders Every meeting we go, every area we go, as we are advocating for SHA and any other government policies, we should be advocating for the protection of girls in our society. Without that one, always, now and then, we are going to be having dumping bodies of young girls. And then the last one, we should consider what is ailing the society that the girls are always being killed by young men and even old men. Why? The point is that there is that idea of whereby we are not trying to look at the cause of violence in a neutral way, so that at least we should advise our young men, boys and men, that girls are there to be protected. And then girls, what should be done to them? Mothers, you are not mentoring them around to be challenges to men. You should be mentoring them to be respecting one another. Out of that, the society is going to be coexisting in a peaceful way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Kemei, 1 minute each.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I want to thank Honorable Pose for bringing in this statement. As we campaign against gender-based violence, I stand, Honorable Speaker, to let us know that this is a monster. As much as we are concerned with economic improvement in this country, we should be concerned more about the social. I'm saying this, Honorable Speaker, because in Kericho County, as by March 2024, cases reported of gender-based violence is 936, which is actually very high, not forgetting even the teenage pregnancies of 5,448. Honorable Speaker, there's this lady who is now in hospital. The husband almost killing her because of what? Change of 336 shillings that she's not given it out. Another one was chopped off her ears. Reason the husband said, she's not listening to me, so I have to remove the ear so that I don't know how she will now listen. Honorable Speaker, the problem that we also have is...
Osoro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also rise to support the statement by the Honorable Gladys Shore, Honorable Speaker. For me, Honorable Speaker, I look at this whole issue largely a morality issue that has been caused by poor parenting and sandwiched to mental health challenges. Because the frustrations out there, people are looking at places they can actually vent to or vent at. And the weaker sex, the weaker gender becomes now the easiest target, Honorable Speaker. But even as we say that, Honorable Speaker, we also need to...
Yes, Sholei.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for this. Well, let me correct Honorable Osoro, who's also my student. Probably you forgot that part of the class. We are not the weaker sex. You see, that's how the bias begins. We may be weak in our muscles, but our muscles are in our brains, not in our hands like yours.
I so agree, Honorable Speaker. She just said that they may be weak in their muscles, and that's what I meant, that they are weak in their muscles. And I say that with tremendous respect to my teacher, the Honorable Boss Sholei. Honorable Speaker, it's also a societal challenge. The communal way of rectifying kids or young men and women when they are growing, Honorable Speaker, has changed, has shifted. People are now leaving parenting to churches, leaving parenting to teachers, leaving parenting to, social media. So it's really a big problem that needs a campaign. And I think this statement is timely. Within these 16 days, we need to tell people that parenting is personal. Talk to your kid and make them understand that you need to grow to be a right or upright person in the society. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Is that Kiamba? Or is the lady, your hair is so thick I can't see your face? Oh?
Ombaka.
Christine.
Yes, it is me.
Your hair is
Speaker.
covering your entire face.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I think gender-based violence has been with us for years, from time immemorial. And we thought that as we move on to years ahead of us, it should be eradicated. Traditionally, women were looked down upon, they were trodden on, they were beaten, insulted, and mistreated. They never had a chance to actually be included in any positions of leadership and so on. In a modern society, I thought modern men would have learned that women have a right to be protected. But you see young men who are supposed to be modern, who are educated, who are with the times, are the ones who are actually being perpetrators.
Your minute is over. Let's go to the next. Innocent Momanyi, member for Bobasi.
Mr. Speaker, the genesis of this matter was our culture.
I have given you an opportunity to make a request for your own statement.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I thought. Mr. Speaker, I wish to make a statement on the passing on of Honorable Andrew Nyananga Rosana, who was formerly a member of Parliament for Bobasi Machoge. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 259D2, I rise with a heavy heart to pay a glowing tribute to the late Honorable Andrew Nyananga Rosana, former Member of Parliament for the then Bobasi Machoge constituency between 1974 and 1979. Honorable Speaker, the late Honorable Andrew Nyananga Rosana passed away on Thursday, 19th November 2024, at the age of 85 years. His passing is a profound loss to his family, friends, and the community he served with unwavering dedication and commitment. The late Honorable Rosana was born on the 4th of August 1939. He will be remembered for his tireless efforts to improve the lives of his constituents through numerous transformative initiatives. Among his remarkable achievements was the initiation of the Kisii-Kilgoris Road project in 1978, which was completed in 1982 and greatly enhanced connectivity in the region. He also spearheaded the establishment of Ogembo and Nyamaje tea factories, fostering economic growth for tea farmers in the area. Additionally, the late Honorable Rosana was instrumental in the development of critical infrastructure, including Sameta water projects constructed by Isako Company, whose water tanks still stand as a testament to his vision. He also oversaw the construction of the Ria Rosana Bridge near the Nyamokenya area, a critical project that addressed the history of tragic accidents in the region. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Nyananga's passion for education was evident in his role in initiating several Harambee schools, many of which were later adopted by the government, which include Bishop Mugeni Nyakegogi Secondary, Nyagiki SDA, Nyamache Secondary School, Nyamawa High School, Vionseri High School, and his personal project of Kenyerere High School, among others. Beyond his development contribution, Honorable Rosana served diligently on the Catering Committee and Speakers Committee, demonstrating his commitment to Parliamentary Service Commission and national progress. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of this House, I extend our deepest condolences to the family of the late Honorable Rosana Nyananga, his friends, the people of Bobasi and the Machoge constituency, and the entire nation. As we mourn his loss, may we draw inspiration from his extraordinary life of service and dedication to humanity. May his soul rest in eternal peace, and may his family and loved ones find comfort in the indelible legacy he leaves behind. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And may you pass our collective condolences to the family of our departed former colleague. Honorable members, before we come back to continuation of statements, let's go to order number 8 and 9 so that we put the questions and then come back to the statements. call out order number 8.
Order number 8, motion, report of the Committee of the Whole House on the Coffee Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2023, question to be put and third reading.
Honorable members, in the last evening sitting, the question was proposed. I now put the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. The mover.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Coffee Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2023, be now read at that time. And I also request the Honorable Dido Russell to second, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second.
Thank you. Order member for Trans Nzoia. Order member for Trans Nzoia. Take your seat. Take your seat. Honorable members, I now propose the question, which is that the Coffee Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2023, be now read a third time. I now put the question, and I confirm we have enough numbers to vote, which is that the Coffee Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2023, be now read a third time. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the establishment of the Coffee Board of Kenya and the Coffee Research and Training Institute, the roles of the national and the county governments, the regulation, development, and promotion of the coffee industry, and for connected purposes.
Thank you, honorable members. For those of you who stayed until past 9 to pass this bill, honorable members, I'll now put the question at order number 9, which is that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Social Protection in its report on the vetting of nominees for appointment as chairperson and as members of the National Gender and Equality Commission, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26 November 2024, and pursuant to Article 250 of the Constitution, Section 11(7) of the National Gender and Equality Act, Cap 7K, and Section 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, Cap 7F, this House approves the appointment of the following persons to the National Gender and Equality Commission. 1, Honorable Rehema Dida Jaldesa, Chairperson, and 2, Michael Nzomo Mbithuka, Member. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Call out also order number 10, Majority Leader. You let it be called out first.
Order number 10, special motion, consideration of nominees for appointment to the Salaries and Remuneration Commission.
Majority Leader, you had an application to make on this?
Yes, Honorable Speaker. I wanted to beg for your indulgence to drop off this special motion number 10 on consideration of the nominees for SRC for reasons that I had discussed with you, and probably stand it down to sometime next week when the House will be ready to consider that motion. And therefore, beg your indulgence that we do drop that order number 10, or rather stand it down to sometime next week, as the House business may allocate time next week, whichever day they allocate us next week.
You are indulged, and the matter will appear before House Business Committee on Monday at midday for further consideration. Let's go back to statements. Samuel Parashina.
Thank you, Mr.
Member for Kajiado South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand for a request for a statement regarding theft of a safe box belonging to Imbirikani Group Ranch in Kajiado South Sub-County. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of the Standing Order 44-2C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security regarding theft of a safe box belonging to Imbirikani Group Ranch in Kajiado South Sub-County. Honorable Speaker, the Imbirikani Group Ranch, located in the western part of Kajiado South constituency, was established in 1968 primarily to facilitate the transfer of ownership of Maasai lands from communal to private group property. The group ranch also ran various initiatives, including the Predator Compensation Fund, PCF, a program for compensation of livestock owners for losses due to predators, thereby reducing retaliatory killings of lions by affected residents. Unfortunately, on 24 August 2024, unknown individuals who purported to be police officers trespassed the Imbirikani Group Ranch office at Paran Hotel and stole a safe box. Honorable Speaker, the stolen safe box contained uncollected title deeds and other official documents critical to the roles played by the group ranch in transferring land to its members. Although the matter was reported to Kimana Police Station under OOB number 14/24/08/2024, the authorities are yet to locate the safe box or recover its contents. Members of the group ranch are apprehensive that they are likely to face the risk of the stolen title deeds being used for fraudulent transaction, exposing them to financial and legal vulnerabilities. It is therefore essential for the security agency to properly recover the safe box and its content to safeguard against such risk and secure ownership of the land. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security on the following. 1, a report on the investigation conducted, including whether any arrests have been made since the incident was reported by Imbirikani Group Ranch to Kimana Police Station under OOB number 14/24/08/2024. 2, the measures being taken by the Ministry of Interior and National Administration to facilitate the recovery of the title deeds and other official documents belonging to Imbirikani Group Ranch documents. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Chair, Security. Russell, you are the Vice Chair.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Are you able to bring a response before we...
Mr. Speaker, the committee is sitting tomorrow at 1000 hours.
Okay.
I want Honorable Parashina to appear before the committee because it is about the interest of the people, which cannot wait until maybe February. So for that reason, on our own motion, we'll try to pursue it.
If you don't respond by Friday, the question will collapse unless it's asked again when we resume. So Honorable Parashina, appear before the committee tomorrow at 10.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
To prosecute your...
I will. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Do you want to be informed, Parashina, by the Deputy Speaker?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, just in the interest, allow me to give him some information, just to assist your people so that you're not worried that the title deeds are in wrong hands. Remember, the title is just, like showing that you're the owner, but the actual records of the lands office are the most important. So you should take that OB number report that you've taken and take it to the lands office so that it's entered in as a caveat. so that nobody can deal with that property as you wait to have the matter heard by the committee, so that at least you're mitigating any further losses and damage. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
That is free legal advice, Parashina. Yes, Tongoyo. Your vice chair has already spoken.
Something.
Go ahead. Give Tongoyo the mic.
So, Honorable Speaker.
It's back to where you're running from.
Honorable Speaker, as much as I want to agree on what the Vice and, of course, the advice of the Deputy Speaker, we had a very almost an 1 hour discussion with Parashina in my own office, actually, a few hours ago, over the same issue. Mm-hmm. And we know Narok and Kajiado, we bother each other and even share some politics. And so I understand, actually in depth, what really transpired. And I did ask whether, of course, or also advise that you need to register the OB. And normally there is also the Gazette, if the title bid has gotten missed. Because it's no longer nothing, it's not really much about security per now. It's about missing of vital documents. So I really want also to support the position of the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Yeah. Parashina umeelewa? Okay. Next, Mark Mwenje. Yes, Parashina.
Yeah. Something, sorry,
yes,
Mr. Speaker.
Sir.
Yeah, I agree with the advice given by Deputy Speaker, and I'll do that. But I really appreciate from the Honorable Dido because of the issue is very, very, very emotive on other documents. So I'll appear tomorrow 10, and I urge them or request the chairperson try to help us because the people, the public has been even doing demonstrations on roads. It's becoming insecurity in our place. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Mark Mwenje.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to request a statement regarding dismissal of our police constable, Mr. Joseph Wangondu Wamogonda. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44.2c, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security regarding the dismissal of Mr. Joseph Wangondu Wamogonda, a police constable of Police Force number 64064. Honorable Speaker, Mr. Joseph Wangondu was employed by the NPS as a police constable on 2nd May 1992 and deployed to the then Northern Frontier Province, where he worked for 5 years before being transferred to Jogoo Road Police Station. On 9th August 2000, while discharging his duties, he arrested a civilian who was impersonating a police officer working for the Alpha 5 Flying Squad. The suspect, together with his taxi driver, were arrested and booked under OB number 5/10/8/2000. Mr. Wangondu was later summoned by his superiors where he was interrogated regarding the arrest and later served with a waiver notice of disciplinary charge. Subsequently, Mr. Wangondu was charged with an unlawful detention of a taxi driver and breaking out of a police line contrary to NPS regulations under OB number 8210/8/2000. He was later acquitted on 30th July 2002 due to lack of evidence. Following his acquittal, Mr. Wangondu appealed for reinstatement to the NPS on 17 December 2014 and subsequently on 19 February 2020, but the NPS is yet to reinstate him. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security on the following. 1, a detailed report on the circumstances that led to the arrest, prosecution and dismissal of Mr. Joseph Wangondu from NPS while undertaking lawful duties. 2, status of appeal for reinstatement to the service made by Joseph Wangondu on 17 December 2014 and on 19 February 2020 and the reasons for the inordinate delay in reinstating the officer. And finally, the relief measures being put in place, including payment of outstanding remuneration and compensation for Mr. Joseph Wangondu for the violation of his rights as guaranteed under Article 41 of the Constitution. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mark Mwenje. Tongoyo, when can you bring a response?
I will try, Honorable Speaker, Thursday next week.
Thursday, thank you. We have already put too many. Tongoyo, we have already allocated too many for Thursday. Do it on Friday morning, next Friday morning. Response to statement request by Doris Donya Chair, Agriculture and Livestock, Dr. Mtunga.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I have a response from the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development regarding the statement that the Honourable Doris Donya requested. Honourable Speaker, the statement had 3 parts. Let me be very sure. The response is structured in about 3 parts. The first part deals with the criteria used to determine the rate of annual bonuses paid to tea farmers across the different regions and factories in Kenya. In response, Honourable Speaker, the Ministry alludes that the tea bonus is a second payment to tea farmers, which is payable at the end of the financial year. Each month, the tea farmers are usually paid an initial amount of 25 shillings for tea factories in the tea block, in the East Tea Block, and 24 shillings for the tea factories in Kisii, Nyamira, and Nandi. 23 shillings for factories in Kericho, Bomet, Vihiga, and Trans Nzoia. This is usually an advance against the green leaf deliveries, since the proceeds from the tea are only realized for 5 days from the delivery of green leaf to the factory due to the timeliness involved in processing and the sale activities. The bonus, therefore, which is the second payment, is therefore the net of the price realized minus the cost of production, including the monthly payments. The second payment is usually dependent on 2 factors. Number 1 is the price realized at the tea auction. The price realized at the auction is dependent on the quality of tea produced by each factory, which is dependent on many factors, including the quality of green leaf, that is the agronomical practices and tracking, post-harvest handling and manufacturing practices at the tea factory. In addition, the price of tea is also influenced by historical tea buyers, perceptions regarding the quality of tea produced by a specific tea factory. Other key factors include the prevailing demand and political situation in the markets and the effect of global economic shocks. So, Honourable Speaker, there is a large table which has different factory prices. I do not know whether, for the sake of members, I need to read. It's about 1.5 pages, Honourable Speaker, with your advice. Okay, Honourable Speaker, the second issue in determination of the payment of bonus is the cost of production. Cost of production also varies from factory to factory, depending on various factors such as transportation, cost to Mombasa, labor and administration costs, and that of energy. Factories with efficient machinery and operations are able to realize lower cost of production. This means that a factory which realizes a lower price and has a relatively higher cost of production will end up with lower net income and will therefore pay less bonus to the farmers. The third issue is a process involved in bonus determination. The tea bonus is usually calculated at the end of each financial year after all revenue and costs have been determined, financial statements prepared and audited by an external auditor. The financial statements are then presented to the factory boards for approval together with the proposed rate of bonus, subsequent to which the directors disseminate the same to the factory shareholders or growers. The second issue, in responding to the statement, is on the reasons behind the significant variations in bonus payment to tea farmers in the country. The response goes as follows. The disparities in bonus payment between different factories in the country is determined by the price realized at the tea auction and the cost of production. A summary of the bonuses paid in the year 2023-24 compared to the 2022-23 is shown in this table. And, Mr. Honourable Speaker, I'll just give the average or the summaries. According to East Block, the first 4 factories, which are basically in Kiambu, are paid an average of, in the year 2023-24, they were paid 73 shillings per kilogram. And then the factories in, and if the previous year they were paying 62.7 shillings per kilogram. Factories in Muranga were paying an average of 81.5 shillings this year and 64.3 last year. Factories in Kirinyaga, factories in Nyeri were paid an average of 74 shillings and 40 cents this year and 64 shillings and 30 cents last year. Factories in Kirinyaga were paid an average of 77 shillings and 10 cents this year and 65 shillings and 50 cents last year. Factories in Embu were paid 84 shillings and 20 cents this year and 64 shillings and 20 cents last year. And factories in Meru were paid 76 shillings and 80 cents last year and 67 shillings this year they were paying 76 shillings and 80 cents, and last year they were paying 67 shillings. So East Block averages were such that the factories in East Block were paying an average of 78 shillings and 10 cents this year and 64 shillings and 80 cents last year. In Kericho County, last year they were paid 55 shillings and 10 cents, and this year 54 shillings and 90 cents. Factories in Kericho has two averages, the first average and the second average, where we have, I think this is Bomet, because I can see Mwagoshek, Chorus. These ones are paid 43 shillings this year and 51 shillings and 50 cents last year. Now, factories in Nyamira were last year paid, this year paid 54 shillings and last year 52 shillings and 30 cents. Factories in Kisii were paid 44 shillings and 30 cents last year, and this year they were paid 46 shillings and 60 cents. And the factories in Nandi, let me combine Nandi, Vihiga, and Trans Nzoia. They were paid 48 shillings and 80 cents last year, and this year they were paid 50 shillings and 90 cents. So on average, on our speaker, factories to the east, to the west of Rift Valley were paid, or the Western Block tea growing area, were paid 65 shillings and 95 cents this year, and 59 shillings and 20 cents this year. So from the above analysis, it is apparent that the average total payment increased by 12% from an average of 52 shillings and 2 cents in the financial year 22-23 to 65 shillings and 95 cents in the financial year 23-24. Likewise, the total payment to farmers increased by 34% from 67 shillings and 67.6 billion in the year 2022-23 to 90.5 billion in the year 2023-24. Notably, due to the high volume of green leaf, farmers in some of the factories in the West Rift earned more income than those in the east of the Rift. So the third issue on our speaker is the measures the ministry is taking the measures that the ministry, through the relevant agencies such as Tea Board of Kenya and the Kenya Tea Development Agency, is taking to ensure that all tea farmers receive fair, uniform, and transparent bonuses based on their production levels. The response goes as follows. Tea factories within the west of Rift generally fetch lower prices compared to the ones in the east of the Rift Valley due to quality differential occasioned by the farmers' husbandry practices. In addition, the cost of production in various factories differs owing to the differences in the style of management and the oversight by various factory boards of directors. Most factories in the west of the Rift Valley also have loans for establishing satellite factories, which attracts high financial costs as compared to the factories in the east of the Rift Valley. Therefore, It is not possible to have uniform payment, but it is possible to reduce the gaps between the factories in the two regions. Cognizant of the differences in tea prices, the Tea Board of Kenya has initiated a strategic tea quality improvement program called STQIP, aimed at assisting tea factories with lowest tea quality to improve and meet the market requirements. The ministry has appointed a committee to develop a minimum standard on leaf quality, which once fully implemented will address most of the quality challenges affecting the tea factories in the Western Tea Block. Since green leaf quality is a key determinant factor to the quality of made tea, and which in turn determines the price of made tea offered by the buyers, Tea Board of Kenya, in collaboration with the counties, will continue to sensitize the farmers on green leaf quality standards. Other measures taken by the ministry include interventions aimed at reducing the cost of production at the farm level, which have been put in place in collaboration with the Kenya Tea Development Agency. Recently, KTDA MS, on behalf of all the smallholder tea farmers, imported 97,000 metric tons of fertilizer at a cost of 3,400 per 50 kilogram bag. To reduce the cost borne by the farmer to about 2,500 shillings per 50 kilogram bag of fertilizer, the government will allocate 2 billion shillings as fertilizer subsidy to the tea farmers. The government support on access to fertilizer at subsidized prices has continued to enhance productivity at the farm level and the quality of tea, and ultimately the earnings to the tea farmers as envisaged under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. The fertilizer imported by KTDA is currently being distributed to the farmers and across tea growing areas. Finally, Honourable Speaker, there was the question of the timeline within which the ministry will address the disparity to ensure that tea farmers across the country are treated fairly. The response goes as follows. Development of a draft minimum standard on leaf quality is ongoing and is expected to be completed by November 2024, which is by the end of this month. However, for it to be enforced, it requires proper public participation as required by the Constitution. The ministry is therefore requesting the National Assembly to provide additional budget allocation to undertake public participation on guidelines, standards, and other regulations necessary to address most of the quality challenges facing tea farm factories in the West Tea Block. The Strategic Tea Quality Improvement Program is a 5-year program which has been ongoing for the last 2 years and is aimed at assisting tea factories with lowest tea quality to improve and meet the market requirements. The program has achieved notable milestones, and some factories in the west of the Rift have gradually started making improvements in the quality of tea produced, such as the Mumu and Ogembo tea factories. The initiative on quality improvement program is expected to ensure factories manufacture tea of high quality that is discerned by the market. Once this is achieved, prices of the affected factories are expected to improve gradually within a period of 1 year, taking into account the market dynamics of supply and demand in the global market. I submit, Honourable Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is very peculiar for the committee to tell the Kisii community that because of historical tea buyers' perceptions, their bonuses are less. Perceptions. It's like saying there is the narrative that all African communities are wizards. They are night runners. Then you believe that perception. Giving an answer to the Kisii, Rift Valley, and Nyamira County that perceptions have made their farmers not to have good bonuses is an abuse to our farmers, Mr. Speaker. Then they're talking of the plucking. I'm not even a tea farmer, but I know from our neighbors, they are told, during the plucking, you pluck 2 leaves and a bud. It is even taught in schools. Then they are giving it as a reason why these people don't get good bonuses, Mr. Speaker. Really? Then you talk of political influence, as if in Kisii, in Rift Valley, we have intense politics. Well, an analyst can say Kenyan political scenes are more of the same. I take it back to the sender. This is half-baked answer. Have it back, please. It's not making any sense. Historical perceptions. That is what you are telling Kisii farmers. Really? No. Back to the sender.
Tunga, RTS.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, I will do the needful. But even as I do that, Honorable Speaker, I think it is important for the Honorable Member to realize that
What
it is
you
not...
do, Mutunga, what you'll do, even listening to you, the answer raises more questions than answers. It doesn't make a lot of sense even to the speaker. Even I saw from your body language, you didn't seem to be convinced with what you are reading. Go back to the ministry and ask them to give you a better explanation.
I will do exactly that.
Tea grown in the east of the Rift Valley and the west of the Rift Valley is Kenyan tea. And those explanations are not plausible. They are created by some bias that you need to address.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, I'll do that.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Kaluma?
Speaker, thank you. Honorable Kwenya Thuku has gone with my card, leaving his here instead.
Yes.
But, thank you. Chair, this matter is not just limited to tea, but it cuts around all our cash crops. You go to coffee, you go to rice, even in terms of rice, the prices are varied across the country. So that what is happening is that people currently take rice cheaply from farmers in Homa Bay, for instance, at Oluch Kimira, and they go and sell them to the bulk handlers in the areas where the prices are high. I want to agree and emphasize the Speaker that as he goes back, we are looking at the major issue of harmonization of the prices and equality of treatment of all our farmers so that the produce are not just being shuffled by middlemen, but actually benefits all Kenyans equally. Thank you.
Sigay.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I am rising here as a tea farmer, a very small scale tea farm. Mr. Speaker, the statement given by the chair is below average, Mr. Speaker. Because what he's doing is giving the answer from KTDA. That's a script from KTDA. Mr. Speaker, I take my tea to Kapkatet and Mogogosiek. We got 20 shillings as tea bonus in Mogogosiek. And then somebody gets 56, 60 shillings in the eastern side. There is no justification whatsoever. And our people from the West have had a very low deal for a long time. We need some serious answer to tea farmers. Mr. Speaker, the issue, even one issue of tea tasting. Chair, Mr. Speaker, where somebody is tasting by mouth in the auction in Mombasa. And then he tells us that's high quality. We want a serious technological approach on how to taste tea. Mr. Speaker, we have a lot of problems. Our farmers are toiling. They go to the farm very early in the morning. They are rained on. And then they get a road deal. Mr. Speaker, we can't accept. There must be an answer. We have a big problem, and my people are suffering in Sotik. And Chair, we need a better answer. If need be, Mr. Speaker, we need to probe. Get a probe of what's happening in KTDA. Otherwise, we'll continue suffering, and we cannot allow this thing to continue. Our people have been given a road deal. And Chair, I agree with my colleague there that the answer should be thrown out. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First, I would like to say that I come from Embu, and we have 3 factories that have always been ranked as among the factories producing among the best tea. Honorable Speaker, in the world we are in, quality really matters. And the quality of tea, Honorable Speaker, comes from usage of machines to do harvesting of tea, and the other ones that are done manually by people. Honorable Speaker, it is true that you find prices of tea in Embu is better than in some other places. And simply, Honorable Speaker, is about the quality of tea. The world is very competitive these days, and we cannot ignore that we need to raise the standards of what we are giving to the world so that we can get good tea. And Honorable Speaker, just to educate my colleagues, tea is actually plucked 2 leaves and a bud. When you use a machine, it normally cuts more than 5, more than 6, and Honorable Speaker, when it is that way, it cannot cost the same way. Honorable Speaker, there is something they are calling these days orthodox tea. And orthodox tea is actually getting among the best prices in the world these days. This is actually the tea that has only the bud, and it is well rolled up. Honorable Speaker, with machinery harvesting, it is hard to achieve the quality of tea that we get in Embu. Honorable Speaker, even our prices are going to continue getting better because we have a good campaign. We are doing a huge campaign of ensuring that we focus on quality of tea other than the quantity of tea. There has been a backlog of a number of months for tea that is not in the right grades from our friends from the East. But I would propose that they should engage the farmers and engage KTDA for what I would call civic education on better getting and fetching better prices of tea. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Cynthia.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I thought Honorable Donya had done justice to this statement, but it is not proper, Honorable Speaker, for Honorable Mukunji to bastardize the quality of tea from the other areas, Honorable Speaker. And he cannot insinuate that the other tea farmers in this country, apart from those from his constituency, know better about tea. Honorable Speaker, that is not proper. Honorable Speaker, my point was not actually on the tea itself, but on the colloquial manner that the executive is answering the statements that are raised by members of this House. Honorable Speaker, I have sat here several times. I have listened and heard the chairs of the respective committees respond to statements in this House. And Honorable Speaker, I can deduce from my very little and common knowledge that they are not taking it as seriously as they should be taken. Honorable Speaker, that response does not even qualify to come from a layman person who has no expertise in matters tea. And that executive, Honorable Speaker, must start taking this House seriously and give us proper answers, because we are not asking these questions just for the sake of asking them. We are asking them, Honorable Speaker, because we have real issues at home. In Nandi County, Honorable Speaker, we have large-scale tea farming. We have small-scale tea farming. The farmers in Nandi go on the streets every day because they go through a lot to get that tea to the factory. And then what do they earn? petty peanuts here, Honorable Speaker, in the name of quality and standards. We all know the quality and the standards of tea, and they cannot be lying to us, Honorable Speaker. And they should take this civic education they keep referring to the village, so that those people can then take it up if they feel that that is the problem. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, the executive need to up their game and give us proper answers to the serious questions we ask in this House.
Member for Kishugu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I represent Geshogo, where we usually have two factories, Kemunye and Thumaita. And connected to the question that was asked by Honorable Donya, I also had asked some questions which were responded to, but actually they were also not very satisfactory. I want to agree with Honorable Member for Sotik that this is most likely a response that has been given by the KTDA to the CS, and there's no harm in doing that. But CS should do more to get proper information. Farmers are suffering, and KTDA has a tendency of reserving or keeping some money for farmers for unknown reasons. I think, without going to the detail, because we've already given direction to this matter, Honorable Speaker, the Committee on Agriculture needs to do something about KTDA, including a thorough probe on the activities that are happening at the KTDA. They are still exploiting farmers. These people are employed by the farmers, but it appears it's like they have employed the farmers. That is the direction to take, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Dr. Mutunga, like I did say, your answer is far, far away from the mark, falls short of expectation, and avoid the stereotyping that is coming from Honorable Mukunji. That kind of stereotyping is not good for building a united Kenya. A tea farmer in Mount Elgon is the same as a tea farmer in Embu, is the same as a tea farmer in Sotik, in Nyamira, everywhere. Find a way, Dr. Mutunga, and I know how thorough you are, to create equity, fairness, and just returns for every farmer. And don't fall into the trap of Mukunji's stereotyping. And next, yes, I'll come to you, Honorable Ruku. Brighton Yagon, is he here? Yes, yes, Mutunga?
Speaker, I have another response for the Honorable Brighton Yagon,
He's
which
not
I wish
here.
to lay on the table of the House.
Just lay it on the table.
Thank
He's
you.
not here. Karemba, what is it?
Honorable Speaker, I just desire that you give me a moment to discuss about the tea, because I am a member of parliament from a tea growing constituency.
We have crossed that Rubicon.
By your powers, Honorable Speaker.
We have crossed the Rubicon. The judge has made a decision and dropped the gavel. Yes, Ruku?
Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Ruku.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. On 18th of September, I requested for a statement to the committee, Health Committee, on the status of payment of the last expense and death gratitude to the survivors and beneficiaries of the National Health Insurance Fund and Public Service Superannuation Scheme. The chairman of the departmental committee, Health Departmental Committee, agreed to give a report within 2 weeks.
Hold the Dr. Sorry, Ruku. Because is a regular attendant, is not here. I would prefer that you raise your issue when he's here so that he can give you a response. But if you want it to go unanswered and he reads, I have no problem. If you want to raise it in his presence, we can do that tomorrow morning. You'll get a better response when you raise in his presence. And he's one of our most regular members.
Much obliged, Mr. Speaker.
Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this chance. Honorable Speaker, this House has severally
stood for the Kenyans and many sectors in Kenya, including the teachers severally. Honorable Speaker, education is a very enormous sector. And Honorable Speaker, we want to thank the President that because of the need for employment of teachers, he has gone ahead to employ 56,000 teachers and now 20,000 interns, which will go to 76,000. But then, Honorable Speaker, I also want to thank this House because it did allocate about 1 billion, though small, for promotion of teachers. And Honorable Speaker, those promotion chances have been already advertised. Honorable Speaker, there is a circular from the Ministry of Finance or the Treasury CS, which has actually directed the Teacher Service Commission not to use funds which are within the commission itself. These funds, Honorable Speaker, arise because of the fact that we have teachers who often leave the profession through to natural attrition, death, retirement, resigning, and those who leave the profession and many other ways. And usually these funds are put together and used to promote teachers or even employ new teachers given the needs in education, the high shortage of teachers that we have in the country, and also the interest of education itself, which is a sector that we are all the time guarding. Honorable Speaker, this circular in its section 25, clause 25 to be specific, has stopped the commission from doing so. And the money is available. And the commission does not need an exchequer or any new monies from the Treasury to promote a whopping 45,000 teachers if this circular is removed. And therefore, between promotion of 45,000 teachers in Kenya and not them being promoted is a circular from the Treasury. Honorable Speaker, it's upon that basis that I want to seek your indulgence, Honorable Speaker, and this House, that the CS and PS Treasury be actually called upon, either through the leader of government business or the chair education, to actually rescind on this circular, because the need for teachers is need-based. As they leave, others need to come, because there's continuous shortage in this area. That is my prayer, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Melly here? Naomi, you tell Melly to look at the Hansard and speak to this on Tuesday afternoon.
Honorable Speaker, I will do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go back to order number 5 and invite the Chairman, Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. Yes, can he, you are on statement? On what issue? Let him lay his papers first.
Honorable Speaker.
Chairman, we are back to order 5. Go ahead.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, the 27th of November, 2024. Reports of the Departmental Committee on the Finance and National Planning in consideration of the following 2 bills. 1, the Unclaimed Financial Assets Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2024, and the Kenya Revenue Authority Amendment Bill, Bill number 35 of 2024. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Go ahead and lay. Yes, Robert Mbui.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know, I seek your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, because we have just 1 week to the close of business of this House for this year. And we note that NGCDF and I think maybe GAF also have not received even the last batch of money that was supposed to be given for the last financial year, Mr. Speaker. We are already in the second quarter of the 2024-2025 financial year. Part of that money, Mr. Speaker, was actually meant to be used for the construction of the junior secondary school classes for grade 9. Mr. Speaker, I was thinking that with your indulgence and your support, because we've done this in the past, maybe we find a way of getting the Treasury to explain to us when this money will be availed to the constituencies so that these classes can be built in good time. Mr. Speaker, it's already we are actually halfway the next financial year and we don't have this money. And Mr. Speaker, I know in the next 1 week or so, we'll be discussing other revenue-raising measures. Mr. Speaker, it's important that the Treasury comes clean. The money they've already raised, why can they give it to CDF for us to construct classes so that the children can be in school in January without a problem? So, Mr. Speaker, I was just asking for your indulgence. You see a way by which you can help us. You've done it in the past, and it has helped us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Who is that, Malio? Is it Malio? Yes, Honorable Malio.
Speaker, I wanted to report on the disbursement of the last financial year's balances. I wanted to confirm that the money was disbursed to all the constituencies, all the balances of last financial year. So you can check in your...
Are you a member of the
Yes,
MGCDF
I am a member of that
committee?
Yes, and I can talk with authority because I'm a member of that committee.
Robert Mbui, your colleague there says he's spoken with a lot of authority. Yes, Mwenje?
Honorable Speaker, I want to, the Honorable Speaker, it's not good to disagree with colleagues, but I want to bring this to your attention, Honorable Speaker. Because previously I've engaged members of the CDF committee. And when they report that they've received, Honorable Speaker, it is the members of parliament of that committee who receive funds first. So we don't receive the rest of us. And we've confirmed that with our fund managers. Actually, I need to make that clear. The fund managers of those constituencies that are not represented in that committee are the ones who haven't received. So that response is inaccurate, and Honorable Speaker, I can confirm, because I spoke with my fund manager this morning, and he had not received a balance of about 13 million as of this morning. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Gogoyo?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for the interest of members that have not received, like myself, Kajiado North lacks 33 million, and up to this morning, I can confirm we have not received those monies. It could be that some members of the CDF committee have received. But, Mr. Speaker, your indulgence is needed for the sake of members who can confirm that they do not have the monies in their account, while the JSS classes, Mr. Speaker, remains a big headache, especially in a constituency that I come from, where we need about 78 classes before January for the grade 9.
Yes, Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me also echo the sentiments of Honorable Mbui that for the financial year 2024-2025, most constituencies have not received their funds, and probably this could be as a result that most constituencies could not, might not have submitted their proposals for this financial year. So we need to also urge, I want to ask our fund managers, wherever they are, they need to make all efforts to ensure the proposals have been submitted in good time. Yeah, and for record purpose, Honorable Speaker, and I want to urge my members, you know we are in court in respect of NGCDF. At any given time, let's try to dissociate ourselves and talk about I have not received, we have not received, so that we remove this perception in the general public that CDF is an MP's money. It's good. It's good for purpose, the public to understand that we are just merely oversight, and we provide oversight, nothing else. And I want to confirm, Honorable Speaker, I've just spoken to the fund accounts manager for Funyula constituency, and he has confirmed the balance for financial year 2023-2024 was received early this week. So it's just a matter of efficiency of the fund accounts manager, which we as oversight members through the CDFC committees needs to put emphasis, ensure that the reports are accurate and updated. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Ferdinand Wanyonyi, on the same issue?
No, it's the same issue. I think I want to confirm that I've just talked to my constituency manager. Mr. Speaker, I think you better just help us to get this money. We are going for a long recess, and without CDF money on the account, I think we're going to have problems. So I request that maybe you get involved yourself, assist us get the CDF so that can be able to move. because we are going to do nothing at home without CDF. And there are so many projects.
Honorable Mwalio, you purported to speak with authority. Has money been received by every constituency?
Speaker, I'm talking of 23-24 balances. All the money was wired by the Treasury to the board's account. And the money was wired last week to all the constituency, all the balances. So some of them, maybe if your proposal did not pass all of it, that's why you cannot receive the money. But also, 24-25, I'm not talking about 24-25. I'm talking about 23-24 financial year. All the balances are with the board. If you have not received your money, you will receive anytime soon.
What we will do, Honorable Mwalio, will transmit the Hansard on Robert Mboi's issue and tell your chairman, Musa Sirma, to make a statement on Monday. On Monday morning sitting. If there is any difficult, Robert, then I'll make an intervention. Next order.
Order number 11, special motion, consideration of nominee for appointment as the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya.
Kimani, is that you? Go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to move that the approval of Mr. Gerard Nyaoma Arita as the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya be read a second time. Mr. Speaker, sir, Article 231 of the Constitution sets out the establishment of the Central Bank of Kenya, which is responsible for formulating monetary policies, promoting price stability.
Kimani, you know how to move a motion, don't you?
Oh, yes.
I beg to move the following motion. You read the motion as it appears on the order paper. Then you start your discourse.
My apologies, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the following special motion that take in consideration the findings of the Joint Committee on Finance and National Planning and the Senate Standing Committee of Finance and Budget in its report on the vetting of the nominee for appointment as the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, the 27th of November 2024, and pass on to Section 13B1 of the Central Bank of Kenya Act, Cap 491, and Section 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011, that this House approves the appointment of one Mr. Gerard Nyaoma Arita as the second Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. So, Honorable Speaker, I raise to move that the approval of Mr. Gerard Nyaoma Arita be approved by this House as the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, Article 231 of our Constitution sets out the establishment of the Central Bank of Kenya, which is responsible for formulating monetary policy, promoting price stability, issuing currency, and performing other functions conferred to it by an Act of Parliament. The joint committees conducted the approval hearings of the nominee to ascertain his suitability in the role of the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. The Deputy Governor plays a very critical and pivotal role in ensuring that the institution fulfills its constitutional and statutory mandates. These responsibilities, Honorable Speaker, outlined under the Constitution of Kenya and the Central Bank of Kenya Act, Cap 491. They include, among others, the development and execution of monetary policies to maintain price stability and to promote sustainable economic growth, financial stability, bank supervision, ensuring efficiency in the payment systems, and supporting the governor in executing duties that may be assigned to the deputy governor. In determining the nominee's suitability, the committee considered the provisions on leadership and integrity as outlined in Chapter 6 of our Constitution. Also, the committees considered the nominee's academic qualifications, his employment record and work experience, membership to relevant professional associations, his roles in public office, his political activities and affiliations, potential conflict of interest, suitability to the position, his tax compliance obligations, and other thematic areas relevant to the duties and responsibilities of the jobs that would be assigned to him if this House approves him, that of the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, having considered his suitability, the Joint Committee noted that the nominee is a Kenyan citizen and is not a citizen of any other country, and therefore meets the requirement of Article 78(1) of the Constitution. He demonstrated an aspiration for integrity in public service, and thus meets the requirements of Chapter 6 of our Constitution on leadership and integrity. After scrutiny of his education background, Honorable Speaker, after scrutiny of his background, academic credentials and professional qualifications, work and professional experience, personal integrity, as well as his performance during the approval hearing, the committees found the nominee possesses the relevant experience for the position of the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya, having served over 36 years in the banking and financial regulation, including playing pivotal roles such as that of Director of Banking Supervision, Financial Markets, and Banking Services at the CBK of Kenya, in addition to being an alternative board member in several key boards in this country, Honorable Speaker. The nominee holds a master's degree in philosophy from the University of Cambridge in the United Kingdom, and a bachelor's degree in art, a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics from the University of Nairobi. He is a certified public accountant and a certified public secretary, certified through Kenya Accounting, through KASNEB, and is also an associate of the Kenya Institute of Bankers. Mr. Speaker, the nominee has over 36 years of experience across many sectors in the Central Bank of Kenya, including experience in payment systems, quality control, banking supervision, banking services, and financial markets. He stated that working in these sectors have equipped him with the skills and experience needed to be the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. Key to note, Honorable Speaker, is that this nominee, when M-Pesa was introduced in this country, it is this nominee, when playing his role at the Central Bank of Kenya, that gave a hearing to the investors that wanted to invest in the M-Pesa business in this country, Honorable Speaker, facilitated the insurance of the appropriate licenses. And we can say he's one of the people why we have such a robust mobile payment system, such as M-Pesa, one of the best, not just across Africa, but global, Speaker. Were it some other public servants who this idea came to them, Honorable Speaker, they may have been threatened because this was a new technology. They may have feared, they may have developed cold feet and not given such approvals. But his role in this revolution of mobile payment shows that he is such a visionary person and best suited to be the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, you may remember the crisis that came with the collapse of Chase Bank, with the merger of National Bank and Spire Bank. Honorable Speaker, this is a nominee sitting at the Central Bank of Kenya in charge of bank supervision that ensured that even though those challenges found in these banks, Honorable Speaker, there was minimal crash in the financial sector and minimal loss of Kenyans' deposits, Honorable Speaker. So this demonstrates someone who is able to work under pressure, is able to make a difference in work, and has a revolutionary mind, Honorable Speaker, in making development in this country, Honorable Speaker. It's also inspiring that to see someone who joined the Central Bank of Kenya in the capacity of a management trainee as a very young man, rising through the ranks to become the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, sometimes when we pick individuals who have worked in other areas and place them into head of institutions, at the expense of officers who have diligently pursued through or gone through the ranks of that particular institution. Although it's good to bring diversity to an institution, but sometimes it demoralizes professionals in that particular institution that have worked hard and risen up the ranks, Honorable Speaker. So this is a clear demonstration that Kenyan systems work, that you can be employed as a young person and rise all the way up to become the position of the Deputy Speaker of the Republic, Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, the nominee exhibited a clear understanding of the current issues that affect the Central Bank of Kenya, and he also shared practical strategies to address these particular issues. Additionally, he demonstrated a satisfactory understanding of the mandate of the Central Bank of Kenya, as well as an extensive knowledge in payment systems, monetary policy, risk-based supervision. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the nominee emphasized adaptive regulatory frameworks for emerging technologies like fintech, matters of digital currency, virtual assets, cryptocurrency, and blockchain technology, Mr. Speaker, and advocated for robust internal controls to prevent financial fraud. He also highlighted strategies to ensure effective monetary policy implementation and address challenges such as high non-performing loans in banks. The committees, Honorable Speaker, having held the approval hearings of the nominee regarding his suitability, observed that due process was followed in the nomination of the nominee in accordance with Article 153 of the Constitution as read together with Section 3 and 5 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011 and Section 12 of the Competition Authority Act of 2010. Honorable Speaker, the Joint Committee therefore recommends that this Honorable House approves the nomination of Mr. Gerard Nyaoma Arita as the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is therefore against this background that the approval of Mr. Gerard Arita is therefore before this Honorable House for consideration and adoption of the report by the Joint Committee of Finance and National Planning and the Standing Committee of Finance and Budget, that of the Senate. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move. Honorable Speaker, I beg to ask that Honorable Karoli Omondi to second.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Kimani, for giving me the opportunity. I just happen to have known this gentleman for quite some time. During my days at the university, he was slightly ahead of us. I think Gerald exhibits all the qualities that are required for a deputy central bank governor, especially at this particular time in the history of our country. If you look at his academic record, he had a first class in economics at the University of Nairobi. At the University of Nairobi. And then he proceeded to Cambridge, where he again graduated with a master's degree in philosophy and economics with distinction. There are very few people who can boast such record. Many years ago, I came across a gentleman called Tomik Konyimbi when we were recruiting somebody for membership of Land Commission. Tomik Konyimbi is the only student from Kenya in the history of Kenya who made transition from an undergraduate degree to a PhD without doing his master's degree at Cambridge. Why? Because he challenged a professor, and the contest was moderated by the Senate, and he was proved right in his theory. And they awarded him straight a PhD scholarship. Nyaoma Arita has what we call deep domain knowledge of the central banking environment in this country. All his life, he has been at that bank, working in several departments: banking supervision, financial sector, fintechs, policy, banking supervision. If there's somebody who can boast such deep domain knowledge, I am not sure you will go very far from him. And if you look at his experience and, of course, his presentation before the committee, you clearly can see somebody who is well suited for this job and very ably prepared to discharge the functions of the office of Deputy Governor. I strongly recommend this candidate and call upon this House to approve him so that we can have somebody who has both the academic credentials, the integrity, and the domain knowledge that is required for the job. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I propose the question that, taking into consideration the findings of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning and the Senate Standing Committee on Finance and Budget in its report on the vetting of a nominee for appointment as the Deputy Governor of Central Bank of Kenya, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 27th November 2024, and pursuant to Section 13B, subsection 1 of the Central Bank Act, Chapter 491, and Sections 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of Mr. Gerald Nyaoma Arita, the second Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. Is it the mood of the House that I put the question? Instructions are to ensure we complete these things up to committee. So who knows we don't have. Who are those who are moving? Honorable Mukunji, the speaker is on his feet. I'm putting the question. Yes. Honorable members, I put the question that taking into consideration the findings of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning and the Senate Standing Committee on the Finance and Budget in its report on the vetting of a nominee for appointment as the Deputy Governor of Central Bank of Kenya, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 27th November 2024, and pursuant to Section 13B, subsection 1 of the Central Bank Act, Chapter 491 of the Laws of Kenya, and Sections 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011, this House approves the appointment of Mr. Gerald Nyaoma Arita as the second Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 12, the Public Finance Management Amendment number 3 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2024, second reading.
Mover. The mover of the Public Finance Management Amendment. Yeah, Dr. Naomi Wako. Proceed. Dr. Naomi Wako, proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill number 3, Bill number 2024, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2024 be read the second time. The bill was read for a first time on 13th November 2024. I would like to thank the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning for a job well done. Honorable Speaker, Chapter 12 of the Constitution of Kenya emphasizes the principles and importance of public finance in ensuring equitable, transparent, and management of the country resources. Honorable Speaker, with that background, the Public Finance Management Amendment number 3, Bill 2024, seeks to amend the Public Finance Management Act to provide for financial management in the transfer of functions between Article 187 of the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, with the foregoing, this bill is a key legislative instrument to enhance cooperation and efficiency between the two levels of government, meaning national and county government. Honorable Speaker, Clause 2 of the bill seeks to amend its principal act by inserting the following new part immediately after Section 183. This provides for the definition of county government, linked corporation, and invest. 186A, in this part, unless the context otherwise requires, transfer agreement means the agreement on transfer or delegation of powers, functions, or competencies as provided for under Section 26 of the Intergovernmental Relations Act. It speaks to the agreement on transfer or delegations of power, functions, or competencies. 186B, this part applies to transfer of functions as provided under Article 187 of the Constitution, transfer of functions and powers between levels of government, and Section 24 to 26 of the Intergovernmental Relations Act. 24, transfers and delegations of powers, functions, and competency, and 25, principles of transfer or delegations of powers, functions, and competency, and 26, agreement on transfer or delegation of powers, function, or competency. Honorable Speaker, members will agree with me that this is undoubtedly an essential aspect of devolution. 186C, this amendment applies to financing transferred functions. And it stipulates, number one, it stipulates that the transferred functions shall continue to be funded from previous sources as contained in the approved budget of the transferring level of government. Number 2A, applies where there is need for additional financial resources for a transferred function. And number 3, it outlines the process of approval and disbursement of the additional financing resources in subsection 2 in the transfer of agreement between the two levels of government. Honorable Speaker, this protects against potential financing gap during the transfer process and guarantees the continuous provision and uninterrupted services for citizens during such transition. Again, 186D, this amendment addresses the cost of transferred functions. And number 1, it stipulates that the cost of the transferred functions as shall be based on the costing framework provided in the national and county government budget manuals. Number 2, it provides that the cost of transferred functions as determined under subsection 1 shall form the basis for the additional financial resources for the transferred functions. Number 3AB addresses the additional financial resources for transferred functions in the case of county government and in the national government, clearly specifying appropriations in aid. Additional allocation and proceeds from loans and grants. Number 4 provides that the allocation under subsection 3 shall be included in the budget estimate of both the county and the national government and shall be submitted to Parliament and respective county assembly for approval. Honorable Speaker, this provision aims to regulate the distribution of resources and guarantee that the receiving government level has sufficient resources to conduct the transferred function. Number 186E, this amendment outlines the management of assets and liabilities. Number 1, it stipulates that transfer of agreement between two levels of government shall include a provision on acquisition, disposal, and transfer of assets and liabilities. Number 2, addresses management of assets acquired and liabilities incurred in the duration of the transfer of function to either level of government. Number 3, it outlines the process of transfer of assets and liabilities upon the expiry of the transfer period shall be in accordance with the transfer agreement or as may be prescribed by the Cabinet Secretary in regulations. Number 186, Article 186F, this amendment speaks to cash flow projection in relation to the transferred functions, whose projections shall be based on revenue projections from various sources of income. Subsection 1 and shall be published and publicized within 15 days of the commencement of transfer period. Subsection 2. Honorable Speaker, these clauses strengthen public finance management by guaranteeing responsible financial planning and implementation of transferred tasks. Article 186G, this amendment provides for quarterly and annual financial and non-financial report. Meaning number 1, 2 obliges the accounting officers in county government in case of transfer from a national and county government, and the national government in case of transfer from county to national government, to submit quarterly and annual financial and non-financial reports to the controller of budget, the county treasury, and the responsible county government entity. Number 3, it stipulates that the copies of these reports be submitted to Senate and National Assembly, Auditor General, and respective county assembly. Honorable Speaker, I therefore urge honorable members to support this bill, contribute, and debate effectively. I therefore beg to move and ask the majority leader, Honorable Ushungwa, to second. I thank you.
The House Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to second this Public Finance Management Amendment number 3 Bill of 2024. And as the title of the bill stipulates, Honorable Speaker, this bill principally is to amend the Public Finance Management Act to actualize the provisions of Article 187 of our Constitution. Just for the record, Honorable Speaker, Article 187 of the Constitution deals with the transfer of functions between the two levels of government, that's the national and the county governments. And 187.1 says that a function or power of government at one level may be transferred to another level of government by agreement between the two levels of government if one, or A, the function or power would be more effectively performed or exercised by the receiving government, or B, if the transfer of the function or power is not prohibited by legislation under which is to be performed. Honorable Speaker, that is to tell you the drafters of our 2010 Constitution anticipated or envisaged that there situations may arise where there is no prohibition by legislation that governments between the two levels of government, the national government may find that a particular function that is given to that level, the national government under Schedule 4 for our Constitution, is better performed at the county level and may therefore seek to transfer that function. And the converse also, the county government may find that a particular function conferred to them under Schedule 4 of our Constitution is better performed by the national government, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, we needed a law or this amendment to be able to actualize the provisions of this particular article of the Constitution. If you read 187.2, it says, if a function or power is transferred from a government at one level to a government at the other level, arrangements shall be put in place to ensure that the resources necessary for the performance of the function or exercise of the power are transferred. And B, constitutional responsibility for the performance of the function or exercise of the power shall remain with the government to which it is assigned by the 4th schedule. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, if you listen to what the mover of the motion was saying, my very able Deputy Whip, is that we are actualizing now the resourcing of these transferred functions. And in doing so, we are actualizing that part 187.2a, that you shall have in place arrangements to ensure resources necessary for the performance of that function that is being transferred follow that function. And if you listen to our colleagues in the Senate, they are fond of saying that resources follow functions. That is what senators keep telling us. And in fact, even governors have, for the last 10 years, been saying resources follow functions. Therefore, if you have devolved functions to county governments, resources must follow. So we are now also from the National Assembly today telling them the same, that if a county government decides by agreement to designate a certain function that belongs to the county governments to the national government. For instance, the county government of Kiambu, where I come from, may decide to designate the running of level 1, 2, and 3 hospitals to the national government because they feel they don't have the adequate resources and capacity, not even capacity resources, but capacity, or that function will be better performed by the national government. And in fact, I would encourage many county governments to consider ceding, for instance, level 4 hospitals to the national government. But now what we are saying in this bill is if that situation arises by agreement, then the particular county government, as I gave the example of Kiambu County, if they had budgeted for resources for that particular function, then those resources must follow that function to wherever it's going. And the budget is approved. And I don't want to belabor the things that have already been said by the mover of the motion, that even in cash flow projections, you must have cash flow projections, as has been provided for in clause 186F, 186E. All those things are just speaking to that particular thing. And therefore, these are very simple and easy bill, Honorable Speaker. It has only 2 clauses, very easy. And therefore, second, and ask members to support, because there is another bill still on an amendment of the Public Finance Management Act. Honorable Speaker, without anticipating debate, I beg to second and ask members to support. I second.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill number 3 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2024 be now read a second time. The Honorable Dr. Wilberforce Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to support the Public Finance Amendment Bill number 3 of 2024. As I do so, Honorable Speaker, it evokes the memory of Nairobi Metropolitan Services. It takes us back to the turn court when the governor signed the transfer instrument, then the next few hours later said he had been intoxicated, he did not know what he was signing. And that's why I must laud the majority, the leader of majority party, for bringing the bill that structures the engagement between the county and the national government in whichever direction you look at it. Honorable Speaker, the drafters of the Constitution set out the mandate of each level of government as clearly set out in Article 186 of the Constitution of Kenya and clearly stipulated in the 4th schedule. But the running theme in the Constitution is that Kenya is one undivided nation and that the various levels of government are purely for service delivery and for administrative purposes. So consequently, none of the function should ever be left unattended to because there's a struggle or a tiff between the national government and the county government. The act, the bill, Honorable Speaker, has been presented in pursuance to Article 187 of the Constitution that contemplates at one time or another that either of the levels will be unable or will find it more suitable and fit for either level to undertake those functions. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, the provisions provided for here provide adequate safeguards so that we do not have a situation that happened in Nairobi Metropolitan Services where there were no structures at all. There was no enabling legislation or law to support the transfer. Honorable Speaker, I sit in Public Accounts Committee, and one of the biggest pending bill on account of State House and Office of the President literally comes out of this kind of arrangement where the county government transferred some services or functions to the national government, but there were no legal framework on how to share to transfer the liabilities and the assets. And that's why it is refreshing that Clause 186E of the bill literally provides a framework how to record the assets, how to record the liabilities, and how to transfer at the end of the transfer arrangement. Honorable Speaker, probably, I know this contemplated the transfer agreement, but it would have made it better that at any given time, the period of the transfer of the function is clearly stipulated in the law. Because if you have a strong presidency and can twist like what happened between the last regime and Nairobi, then it means any transfer function will be done in perpetuity or for a longer period than it is. Actually, it should be done in such a way that there's capacity building during the transfer. I would request, if time allows, that any transfer agreement, especially from the county to the national government, should be for the purposes of capacity building to ensure the county government have developed adequate capacity and infrastructure to run that services, more so where the service is a devolved function as contemplated in the 4th schedule. Because essentially, we must let the counties perform. Regardless of their failings, regardless of their shortcomings, we must put into mechanism to allow them to operate. Honorable Speaker, I would even probably, over time, we could have also provided for some element of public participation, that before a transfer of a function occurs, there must be some semblance of public participation so that the residents of a particular county are asked, do you agree that the county has failed or is unable or is lacking adequate capacity so that we can transfer that function to the national government? It must be a consultative process, but as it is now, it's going to be a unilateral process whereby the county, the governor, and the president can simply sit down and say, let me transfer this function. The same way, since National Assembly is the custodian of represents the people of Kenya and the interests of the people of Kenya, there must be a mechanism in this bill to allow some kind of approval process at the national level by the National Assembly to permit the national government to transfer a function as an exclusive function of the national government to the county government. Because at any given time, everybody must carry their responsibility. Honorable Speaker, with the kind of challenges the county governments are having in the health sector, the kind of challenges they are having in the ECD, the education sector, I'm sure this kind of a debate, we can have a structured debate to find out what levels, as the majority party leader has indicated, can we look, for example, at the 4 referral hospitals that can be transferred to the national government. Honorable Speaker, there is a hospital in Kiambu County where an intern doctor committed suicide. There is the same hospital, 4 months later, another intern nurse has committed suicide. Does it mean professional standards are different? We don't hear of a medical doctor committing suicide in MTRH. We don't hear a medical doctor committing suicide at KNH. Even if they do, it's not reported. So these are challenges that we must address as a nation where failings. And then, Honorable Speaker, we need to urge the county governments. It's never too bad. It's not a sign of weakness to admit I have failed. It's not a sign of weakness. Actually, strong people who admit here do not have adequate capacity, let me give it out. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I support the bill, and I will seek, time allowing, to make a few amendments, and I hope the committee will listen to us so that we make a better bill for posterity of this country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Innocent Mugabe requested for another. The Honorable Karoli Omondi, you want to speak to this? Yeah, the Honorable Irene Mayaka last.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to stand and support this particular bill. And Honorable Speaker, my initial reason is because I am a big fan of things that are structured and that are seamless. And for me, Honorable Speaker, we've had a lot of situations between national and county government that have gone on and on because of what we call the transfer of services. And as it has been clearly put by the mover of the motion, it is ideally proper when functions follow, money follows functions. Honorable Speaker, some of the reasons why I support this particular bill is because it gives us a clear guideline for transfer of functions, that is number one, between national and county governments. It also shows us that service delivery will not be disrupted. Because again, Honorable Speaker, because of the bureaucracies that are involved with transfer of funds and the processes involved, service becomes disrupted because there is a gap that has been provided for because of lack of funds. So this is going to actually fill that gap. Honorable Speaker, the other thing that I'm supporting is because the costing framework will now be uniform, not only between national and county governments, but it will be seamless and uniform across all counties. Because we've had very many situations where we have situations where different counties come up with their own mechanism of how they want financial management to be undertaken, but this will provide for us a specific framework. Honorable Speaker, the other thing, and this is from my experience of being a member of County Assembly, is when there were delays from national government, you find a County Assembly grappling with how they can be able to seek for temporary loans from banks because they don't have that specific structure between executive and the County Assembly. So this particular introduction is going to enable counties not to spend too much time trying to grapple with how do we finance our functions, how do we borrow additional funds from different financial institutions, because I can see that is allocated for. The other thing that I really like about this bill, Honorable Speaker, is that it gives a specific timeline of 15 days from the start to the finish of the process, which is very important because when we do not give a specified timeline, it could be taken advantage of. Anyone who wants to disrupt the process or be mischievous can take advantage where there's no specified timeline. Honorable Speaker, I also take note of the public participation that the committee did. I note that the counties of Isiolo, Mombasa, Kericho, Taita Taveta all supported this particular bill. And one of the things that some of the counties emphasized, like Mombasa, is that they said they really like this particular bill because for them, they feel like when money is closer to the counties, it's closer to them because they have access to that. Also, Honorable Speaker, to note is the support from the Westminster Consulting and KEPSA as well, who unanimously supported this. And in particular, they took note of the uniform and well-defined agreement that is being proposed by this bill. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I do support the bill. I thank you.
The Chair, Departmental Committee.
PFM Management Bill number 3 was referred, as sponsored by the leader of the majority party in the House, was referred to our committee. In Siaya, in Bungoma, in Kericho, and in Mombasa counties. And it was interesting how members of the public, especially after we explained to them, we are noticing, Honorable Speaker, something very interesting in our Kenyan population. A great interest in how laws are made by this House and a better understanding of how those laws affect them. And Honorable Speaker, this was also a good moment for us to do civic education to Kenyans. And people will now appreciate this is what you're doing and for what reason. Honorable Speaker, one thing that came out, and I'm happy that part of the things are contained in this bill, and actually that we recommend that in the Committee of the Whole House will be seeking amendment to, was the need for public participation in the transfer of those functions. So I want to confirm to my good friend, the Honorable Undo, that actually that's one of the observations that the committee made in our report that we tabled yesterday. We are recommending an amendment so that public participation become part and parcel of the transfer of these functions, Honorable Speaker, so that even when counties feel that they need to transfer these functions, then it's not also a show of laziness where you do not want to do your job and therefore you want it to be someone else's job, Honorable Speaker. We also took time to explain to Kenyans because one of the challenges that we had, in fact, one of the challenges we had to explain the tax measures that will be the report that will be bringing to this House next week was a trust deficit on the expenditure side between Kenyans and the executive. Honorable Speaker, I dare say part of the trust deficit is because of the non-understanding of the different functions that are done shared between what functions are done by national government and what are done by county governments. But also, Honorable Speaker, the excuse of counties on particular matters, and especially the excuse of transfer of equitable share to counties, Honorable Speaker. In one of the counties we went, the Kenyans there were lamenting, saying there was no medicine in hospital, this project has not been done, and they were saying, we have been told, national government, ndio hawajatuma pesa. Honorable Speaker, we had to call the Minister for Finance to read to us the balances that have been sent to counties. We had to seek the balance, the CBK governor to know the balances that are held in the county, in the accounts of this county, Honorable Speaker. And the particular county that the governor was saying he had not received funds, there was more than half a billion shillings in the bank account, Honorable Speaker. It is a fact that the disbursement of money to counties for this financial year, for the month of July, for the month of August, for the month of September, for the month of October, and by now, I'm almost hoping that the month of November has been dispersed to counties, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, there should not be an excuse why counties should not deliver services to Kenyans on the excuse that money has not been transferred to counties, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, my appeal to this Honorable House is to support this bill, to support the amendments the committee are going to propose during Committee of the Whole House, amendments that were brought by conducting a very elaborate and extensive public participation across the country. That I beg to support, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Julius Meli.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this bill is very timely and very important. In fact, it's a bill that is going to make sure that the accounting officers in the two levels of government are really accountable to the people. This bill, as it explains very explicitly the functions of the transferred services. The agreement between the transferring entity, either national or county government, and the responsibility is conferred to the receiving entity. In this case, Mr. Speaker, every other time when we are in our constituencies, we've had cases, what the chair of budget is saying, that officers from county governments often complain that this is not their service. They can't provide this. It is not provided for in their level of government. But this bill actually seeks to put a lot of emphasis, especially on what the transferred entity is supposed to do, the cash flow from the national government or the county government to the receiving entity, and more importantly, the sources of revenue. So this one actually puts the officers and the institutions that are receiving the responsibility. For example, in agriculture. For example, in health, several people at times do not have drugs, at times do not have requisite facilities. Yet, the national government has already transferred those services to the county governments. On the same note, this requirement, Majority Leader, that the two entities that are actually transferring services are supposed to transfer and sign off that you have received this function and therefore start from that particular time going forward providing the services. In some instances, Even accounting, the control of budget, that's what the bill has actually specified very clearly, that the functions that have been transferred from the national or from the county government or vice versa shall actually be audited immediately, and those documents be provided to the Office of the Auditor General, and the document be tabled in the Senate and the National Assembly, because these are the houses that represent the people of Kenya. Majority Leader, there is no any other better time that we needed this document than now, because across the country, disaffection is common amongst the citizens, and we do not have county government citizens or national government citizens. We have the citizens of the Republic of Kenya. And this is the time that we really need to put down our foot to make sure that accountability is seen across all functions of government. Lastly, is the issue of assets and liabilities. When the devolution was taking place, Mr. Speaker, a lot of government assets and liabilities got lost, especially in the county, what we used to call the county councils. Assets that were owned by county councils, assets that were owned by national government within the counties. There was no clear structure on how these assets were handed over and who took them over. And in fact, the records at times vanished. So this bill is actually trying to secure the assets of the Republic, both at the county level and even at the national level. And it is actually entrenching the Constitution by recognizing that we have 48 governments, national government and 47 county governments. I support this is a very timely bill. Thank you.
There being no more interests, may the mover reply. Sorry. The mover, Honorable Robert, I'm very sorry, I pronounced myself. Tell me, mover, for how long are you going to speak, or you could donate half your time to the Honorable Mbui? No, 2 minutes. 2 minutes would be limited.
Minutes.
Could you give at least 5?
I'm replying in 1 minute.
Honorable Mbui, you wanted to talk. No, I like it whether you agree or oppose, but I take your contributions in the House normally very seriously. That is why I was seeking indulgence for you. You can do it in 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'll be very brief, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. I also rise to support because, from 2010 when our new constitution was promulgated, one of the most important things that came up was the devolution of powers and functions. And Schedule 4 is very clear about the functions that are at the national level and the ones that are devolved to the counties. Over the years, of course, we've seen a lot of meddling, sometimes by the national government, on things that are being done by the counties. I remember in the last 2 parliaments, we've had an issue like, for example, in the health sector where the national government would even go to procure equipment for the county governments without any plan, without any agreement whatsoever. And I remember the clinics that were bought, I remember medical equipment. So it's been a very, very difficult time. So I think this bill is going to help us because it's going to help put order in how each level of government does its things. And the fact that the Article 187 identified even before that once we promulgate the Constitution, there will be times when we will need one level of government to maybe take over some roles and support the other. Because the times when this happens, Mr. Speaker, is when one arm of, or rather one level of government is more effective or can effectively carry out a procedure. Sometimes it is also when the resources are available, and sometimes also it is when when the timelines are not well thought out. So, Mr. Speaker, I think for me, I think this bill is a game changer because it is going to allow us to be able to get rid of the situation that we saw in Nairobi, where somebody rushed and signed something, and then later on, in the full glare of media, said that they didn't know what they were signing. This makes sure that every time a situation like that between the 2 levels of government they come together and they want to agree on who can do what for the other, then there will be an agreement that everybody will participate and be able to see. So I think this is a game changer and I strongly support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Mover.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I beg to rise to reply. Maybe just picking up from what the Honorable Meli was saying, that it is indeed true that even at the time of the local government authorities, there are indeed issues with transfer of assets and liabilities. And this bill does indeed address the concerns that Honorable Meli has mentioned. If you read Article 186E, it deals with the management of assets and liabilities between the two levels of government, including the list of assets and liabilities that would be accompanying a transfer agreement, and says a transfer agreement between the two levels of government shall, in addition to the requirements under Section 26 of the Intergovernmental Relations Act, include a provision on acquisition, disposal, and transfer of assets and liabilities. And even goes further to say that during the process of transfer of assets and liabilities, at the time of expiry of the transfer period, it shall be done in accordance with the transfer agreement, and therefore caters for the concerns that Honorable Meli has raised. And I want to also agree with Honorable Robert Mbui. Indeed, it is true. The impeached governor of Nairobi once told us that he signed a document, he didn't know what he was signing. And therefore, that is why it's important to have this kind of law. But I don't know whether it's really something to do with the lack of a law at that time, or it's something that goes with those who get impeached. Because I've also heard another one now saying, who was impeached, that he did not know anything to do with Adani, but he then goes to church and says that I had actually told the president this Adani is not good. But when he was in office, he told us that he did not know anything about Adani. He could not comment about Adani because it was under his purview. So it is probably some sickness with impeached people or something you get infected with upon impeachment. But with that, Honorable Speaker, allow me to reply and say this law is a very important piece of legislation because it will ensure that any transfer of functions between the two levels of government is superintended in a very good way, and resources, as we said, follow functions. And when that function is going back to the level of government that may have designated to the other level of government, if there are any assets and liabilities that went with it, then there is a process that is provided for within the transfer agreement. With that, I beg to reply.
A question to this particular bill will be put in future for the convenience of the House. Next order.
Order number 13, the Public Finance Management Amendment No. 4 Bill, National Assembly Bill No. 45 of 2024, second reading.
Mover. We approach the Speaker first. Mover, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to move that the Public Finance Management Amendment number 4 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 45 of 2024 be now read a second time. Honorable Speaker, this bill again is a very short bill, again amending the Public Finance Management Act around the issues of our debt management. And Honorable Speaker, you remember we did amend the Public Finance Management Act, I think about 2 years ago, setting the thresholds for our public debt. Honorable Speaker, this bill seeks to strengthen our public finance management framework by addressing a number of critical issues. One, on compliance; two, on accounting and governance. And on accounting and governance, Honorable Speaker, the bill in clause 3 provides for the amendment of Section 194 of the Act to provide for a framework for implementation of the accrual accounting in government and risk management by the Public Sector Accounting Standards Board. And Honorable Speaker, this is meant to improve the accounting standards for better transparency in government. Honorable Speaker, you know we have been under the cash-based accounting system, and to create that legal framework for moving to an accrual-based system, we need then to have the framework which we are creating now in this bill under clause number 3. Honorable Speaker, clause 2 of the bill outlines the effective dates for complying. As I said, it talks about compliance, accounting, and governance. I've spoken about accounting. And on compliance, Honorable Speaker, clause 2 gives us a debt threshold that I had alluded to, that we did amend in the Public Finance Management Act, requiring that we amend Section 50 of the Public Finance Management Act. And if you look at the bill, clause 2A6, to delete subsection 2C of the Principal Act that I'm referring to, that we amended some time earlier. And maybe for the benefit of members, Honorable Speaker, 2C provided for that the provisions of 2A, that the borrowing of the national government referred to in subsection 2 shall not exceed 55% of our gross domestic product in net present terms. And notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 2A, the national government may, in exceptional circumstances, exceed this threshold set under this subsection by not more than 5%, and shall come into force on the date that is 5 years from the date of the commencement of this act. Honorable Speaker, when we did this debt threshold, we set our public debt threshold at 55% of our GDP in net present terms, plus or minus 5. And basically it's plus 5 because minus, you are still within the 55 threshold. And therefore, it says under exceptional circumstances, then your debt to GDP ratios could rise from 55 and maybe to about 60%. But at the time we enacted this debt anchor threshold, Honorable Speaker, you know, we had already passed that debt threshold. And therefore, we needed a transition period under which the national government or the national treasury is obligated to ensure that we sustain our debt levels within that debt anchor ratio of 55 and to a maximum of 60% under very exceptional circumstances. And that is what we are seeking to do in seeking to comply with this particular provision, to ensure that we then set a period that will not exceed 5 years. That from the time this act came into being, which I think was last year but one, within a period of 5 years, by the end of 2027, then the National Treasury must ensure that our national debt levels cannot and may not go beyond that 55%. And therefore, it's important that we do amend this provision, because if you left it like that, Honorable Speaker, it's possible you find yourselves in the year 2037 or 2042, when Robert Mbui wants to run for president. He will now come and tell us, 2032. Sorry, I thought he wanted to run in 2042. He says it's 2032, which is very encouraging, because that tells me his party leader will not be president by then for Robert Mbui to be running for president. Honorable Speaker, I was saying that on a light note because I know it is possible if we don't put that ceiling in terms of timelines, then it is possible that bureaucrats in government may push that debt ceiling and it remains above 55% all the way to 2032, 2042, 2050. And generations that will come after us will be saying that we are still within the debt ceiling, because there was no timeline that was set. And that's why we are saying to have compliance, or rather to enforce compliance, we force the National Treasury to make sure that within this period of 5 years, they do move that compliance level to the levels that were set out in the bill. Honorable Speaker, as I said, it's a very short bill, only 3 clauses, and therefore I have nothing more important to add. And I beg to move and request the chair of the Finance Committee, the Honorable Kimani Kuria, the one and only member for Molo, to second.
The member for Molo.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this Public Finance Management Bill number 4 be now read a second time. Again, this is one of the Honorable Speaker, I beg to move to second, Honorable Speaker. And before I do so, this is again one of the bills that was referred to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. This is one of the bills that we have done public participation across the 6 counties and received a lot of memoranda about. One of the views that Kenyans told us is that they were concerned that this bill would have led to giving Treasury or the executive a blank check to borrowing. And for sure, from the final initial drafting of the bill, that was what would have happened. Because the bill, as it is now, talks of that 5 years from now, from the enactment of this bill, is when now the Cabinet Secretary will be required to adhere to the 55% plus or minus 5 debt as a percent of GDP in present value terms to report to this House. But a further clause, Honorable Speaker, was saying that that clause will come to effect after 5 years. So essentially, that would have meant that would have given Treasury 10 years, you know, of the time that they would need to come and report to this House, or that they need to adhere to the 55% debt as a percent of GDP in present value terms, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, we'll be proposing again amendments coming from this so that we do not give Treasury again a blank check on this borrowing. Kenyans said they are concerned about the borrowing that could cripple the economy, that increases unnecessary burden to future generations, and they want our debt to be checked. Honorable Speaker, the concern also was about, in addition to the debt that already exists, Honorable Speaker, pending bills should be accounted for as debt. Because what is currently happening, and one of the reasons why we have a cash crunch in the country, why there are many Kenyans who are not feeling money in their pockets, is because some of the developments that we are enjoying, that have seen, the schools that have been built, the roads that have been built, the hospitals that have been built, have been financed by private Kenyans' money. The contractors who have not been paid, the verified pending bill now is in excess of 500 billion shillings, and not to talk about the bills in counties, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, if this money is released back to the economy, Honorable Speaker, we'll see at least a better flow of money in the economy and Kenyans feeling money in their pocket, Honorable Speaker. And people might say, maybe this is not false, this is not true because it's going to be the big boys who do contract with the government that will be paid. But remember, Honorable Speaker, the contractors have employees that they have not paid. These employees have rent they have not paid. These employees support their families, and therefore, when this money does not reach these people, then we get to have that cash crunch, Honorable Speaker, in the economy. This bill also, Honorable Speaker, maybe let me speak a little on the change. You know, this Honorable House passed the debt ceiling from nominal terms, where we knew the debt ceiling was moved it from 6 trillion to 9 trillion, I think, to 11 trillion shillings. But now, this Honorable House 2 or 3 years ago, now changed that to not just nominal terms, but that debt to be a percentage of GDP, not just a percent of GDP in present value terms. So which means that when you are calculating our loan liabilities, you'll have to discount that for inflation, Honorable Speaker. So that discounting, again, is very important because it shows that for you to adhere to that threshold, that 55%, that money that is borrowed must come to the economy because we are measuring not just debt, but the effect of that debt on GDP. So where that debt does not lead to a growth of GDP, then you will consequently see now a rise in the percentage, which will be against this particular law, Honorable Speaker. This law, Honorable Speaker, also is proposing to change our accounting system from cash accrual, from accrual accounting, Honorable Speaker, to cash accrual. But many people are asking, what is this cash and accrual accounting? A very easy example of cash accounting is you record your expenses, you record your liabilities when you pay. So the transaction is cash-based. This particular method is usually used by small institutions or by small businesses because it is purely a cash business. So a kiosk, someone who operates a kiosk in mall on a cash basis will take the cash that was, the supplier will bring stock, the kiosk person will pay in cash and record that as purchases, okay? And then the people will come and buy, they will pay in cash, so we record that as sales. And therefore, very easily, the person is able to calculate what the profit is, or what the sales is, or what the purchases are, and even calculate how much cash they have, how much profit they have. That is cash accounting. So on accrual accounting, talk about a bigger entity that gets supplies on credit and also sometimes sells on credit. So the accrual accounting now will recognize those particular goods that have been supplied even when they have not been paid for. And will also account for when those items are sold even when they are not paid for. And therefore, if you can see that as bigger business cannot operate under cash accounting, why are we operating as a country on cash accounting? We should, and that is one of the challenges we have on pending bills. Because we rely on the exchequer going to the government entity, and then the government entity procuring. So at the end of the year, that money has to be budgeted again and to be accounted again. That's why sometimes we have no record of how much pending bills we have. Accrual accounting also take note of all assets and liabilities. Something that is very difficult to do, that is not done, in cash accounting. And find that even government of Kenya, if you are asked, how many motor vehicles does the government of Kenya own? How much land does Kenya own? How much assets in terms of buildings does Kenya own? So that information is not available because of the cash accounting system that we use. So we're hoping that now once we move from this cash accounting to accrual system, to accrual accounting, we are going to see more accountability. We are going to be able to verify more how much our pending bills are, how much we owe, how much we own as a country, how much assets exist, Honorable Speaker. And it has been seen as one of the best practices, Honorable Speaker, globally. So I really urge this Honorable House to really support this bill. I want to assure you that as we are proposing, the amendment is not passing a blank check to the executive. In fact, it is putting them more to account that the debt that they borrow must be used to grow our GDP. And we are clearly providing a timeline in which they should come to this House and report and show proof that they had actually adhered to the 55% of debt as a percentage of GDP in present value terms. The migration from cash to accrual is something that the accounting profession has discussed over the years. You go to some, even public schools, for example, you find one of my public secondary schools had a debt pending bills of 30 million shillings. And we were asking, how does a day secondary school get to 30 million shillings as their outstanding debt? So when you called the suppliers, someone is saying they supplied milk worth 5 million shillings. Then you're asking, how can the only people that consume milk in the school are, for example, maybe the principal and the teachers. So is it not possible that a school that not give the students milk would incur such bills? You ask them for receipts, nothing, because even our schools use a cash accrual system. So we are really urging all government entities. Honorable Speaker, this is one of the matters that you will see a lot of resistance from our accounting officers, because they would not want to change that system, because it gives a national treasury, it gives anyone in this country that wants to go and check the financial health of a particular institution there. Just the same way, if you want to buy a business, if you go to a bank, you are able to clearly tell what the strength of the asset is, what their debts are, what their abilities, and what their even profitability is. But because there is no profitability in offering public service, Honorable Speaker, but at least we need to have a clear view of what assets and liabilities our government has, and one of those that has been demonstrated globally to work as an accounting tool is a migration from cash to accrual accounting, Honorable Speaker. And with that, I beg to second.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that the Public Finance Management Amendment number 4 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 45 of 2024, be now read a second time. The Honorable Robert Mbui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to also add my voice to this amendment on the PFM Act. Mr. Speaker, first I want to agree with and support the amendment on of Section 194 of the Principal Act, which is the third clause of this bill, that basically talks about moving from cash accounting to accrual accounting. And I think I've attended a few functions with ISPAC, and I think that's basically what has been their proposal. So I think basically if the accountants of Kenya, chief among them being our leader of majority here, if they think this is a good system, I think it might be a good idea to move our country in that direction. But Mr. Speaker, I have very serious questions about the issue of the Second Amendment, which is to do with the matter of borrowing. Mr. Speaker, previously I think we used to have a system where our borrowing was, I think, a relation between our debt and GDP. Then later it changed. We moved to a fixed figure, and I remember we talked about 7 trillion at one time, went to 9 trillion, then went back again and said we are going to deal with the issue of debt to GDP, and I think it was set at 55%. But Mr. Speaker, I've looked at the way the law is now, and I'm comparing it with the amendment, and I'm asking myself some serious questions. If you look at what 50 says, and that is on the obligations and restrictions on national government guaranteeing and borrowing, 2C, it says that the Cabinet Secretary shall not later than 5 years from the date of coming into force of subsection 2A and 2B take measures to ensure that borrowing by the national government complies with the threshold set out in subsection 2A. Now, the proposed amendment reads very similarly that now the CS shall not later than 5 years from the date of coming into force of this act take measures to ensure that borrowing by the national government complies with the threshold prescribed in subsection 2A. So I think for me, what I'm seeing is the starting point. Because the 5 years is already there, it's already there in law. The starting point. At what point do we start measuring the 5 years? Apparently, if we pass this bill, my understanding is that we start counting the 5 years now. That will take us to 5 years from today. But if we use the previous law, it is 5 years from the date that we passed the law. So what are we doing? We are actually pushing forward government borrowing, within which, the period within which they will make sure that they follow the law that is already passed. Because we passed the law, they are not able to do it immediately. So it takes a while before the government can build the GDP and ensure that the borrowing that we've already done is within the law. So that period started when we passed the previous law. But now if we make this amendment, because it's very similar, we start counting the time from now. That means we are allowing another 5 years from today. And I think, Mr. Speaker, for that, I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think we should put pressure on Treasury to try and do it within the period that is left so that they can be able to balance this thing. Otherwise, what will happen is we'll end up coming back to the House and now putting another fixed figure and saying, now we are pushing our debt ceiling to 13 trillion. We are moving from debt to GDP. We want a fixed figure again. Let us sort it out. Let Treasury sort out based on the law that we have already passed. Let us not give them an opportunity to again increase or extend the time. With that, Mr. Speaker, I submit.
The Member of Parliament for Tetu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support this bill, especially the amendment with regards to accounting principles. We all know that globally we use the accrual system of accounting, but maybe what the chairperson and the mover of the motion needs to possibly tell this House is how shift from cash to accrual system is going to make the books of the government look. Is it going to, say, for example, exaggerate our debt? Is it going to exaggerate our assets or diminish them? I think I would have expected such a substantial motion being moved, some scenario analysis would have been put. But Mr. Speaker, on the issue of the debt ceilings, again, I here would support my colleague, Honorable Bui, because this matter has kept shifting from one regime to the other, from one parliament to the other. And I think as a country, we need to determine how we want to measure our debt, how we want to do this once and for all. It looks like a lot of these moves, Mr. Speaker, are for convenience, by the government of the day or by the regime of the day. Sometimes we want 10 trillion, we want a percentage of GDP. Now we are shifting again the number of years. I think this lack of clarity makes planning an economy very, very difficult. And Mr. Speaker, it is important, if we have already passed the 55% debt to GDP ratio, and that is already in law, it may as well be okay that we just proceed with that. Remember, Mr. Speaker, we are at a time where we are saying the single biggest problem ailing this country is public debt. We are spending up to 68% of all the revenues that we are collecting just on servicing debt. We all know that this domestic borrowing is actually choking small businesses from being able to borrow and operate in the economy. So, Mr. Speaker, anything that we can do to ensure that our debt is sustainable, to ensure that our debt is actually not taking the oil that fuels the economy, to ensure that small businesses are not put out of business because they cannot compete with government in the domestic borrowing sector. This will be very important. I would also expect, Mr. Speaker, that as we discuss this debt ceiling, we also bring some clarity between foreign debt and local debt. So to the extent that, again, we have just lumped everything together, because we have all been saying we need to progressively move to maybe more of foreign debt, so that in the local debt market, we are able to remove overcrowding of small businesses, of individuals, who basically ensure that we end up limiting the consumption in the country and thereby slowing down the economy. So, Mr. Speaker, these are the clarities that I would actually seek from the mover of the bill. But as it speaks, I think this is too much shift in policy. And, while I support the fasting of the accrual system, I do not support, the changes in terms of the 5-year wait for the operationalization, of the new debt ceiling. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Wilberforce Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. In principle, I support the bill. Allow me to first of all delve on the clause 3. And clause 3 is an administrative, literally as a reporting matter, and that is required for under the Constitution and the Parent Act. And let me also share my experience as a member of Public Accounts Committee, where this matter is routinely featured on the issue on how to account and prepare reports of accounts. Honorable Speaker, I'm not an accountant, but I was one time a reporting officer or an officer of a company, and obviously at the end of every financial year, they must prepare books of accounts. While the private sector, you will see a balance sheet that has got the assets, liabilities enumerated clearly together with the loss and income statement. In government, this has not been there. So now to the extent, Honorable Speaker, what we have actually come to see as pending bills could actually have been cured through an accrual system. And as the chair has said, currently the system, the way system is set in government, the government does not know its assets in entirety. There is no single accounting document that can tell you these are the assets of the government. And that's why it's therefore important that we shift to accrual basis so that we are able to tell these are the assets of the government, these are the liabilities of the government for purposes of assessing the net worth of the government. Honorable Speaker, my only concern, the commencement date of accruals accounting system has been shifting all along. It leaves me wondering, does it really mean the government or the executive, both at national level and the county level, do not have the technical capacity to swiftly shift to accrual basis? Many times, accounting officers will come to you until they don't have an a fixed asset register because they have no money to prepare one. It is important this process is expedited so that we go to accrual system. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude on the issue of clause 2, Honorable Speaker, the Parent Act talks about the Cabinet Secretary shall not later than 5 years from the date of coming to force of subsection 2A and 2B, ostensibly that says the debt limit, take measures to ensure that borrowing by the national government complies with the threshold prescribed in section 2A. The new amendment, Honorable Speaker, literally shifts and says the provision of section 2A and 2B shall come into force on the date that is 5 years from the date of commencement of this act. In principle, this bill shifts the date when we have to comply with the provisions 2A and 2B to a date after 5 years from the date this bill is accented or comes into force. So therefore, it means we give the current government or the next government the latitude to play around and probably not adhere to the regulations. But, Honorable Speaker, a more important issue that needs to be addressed as a nation, pending bills, Honorable Speaker. It is extremely unfair to insinuate that pending bills is not debt. If you look at Article 214, it reads, for the purpose of this article, the public debt means all financial obligations attendant to loans, raised or guaranteed, and securities issued or guaranteed by the national government. I want to urge the national government to capitalize pending bills and issue guarantees so that you can adequately and correctly report loans that cover the debts of the national government. As it is now, Honorable Speaker, we are literally understating the loans and the debts of the national government. It might not even could be, if you include all the historical pending bills and the current bills, it could even be around almost 70% or close to 80% of the national GDP. It is important that we deal with it and we know how to proceed. With those few remarks, I hope the committee has listened to the people of Kenya and there will be amendments to address the concerns we have raised here, because we understand we need to get these things moving in good time to unlock very many things that are stuck. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support.
There doesn't seem to be any more member who is interested in contributing on this. And yes, the lady, order. The lady there is interested in contributing, I think. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And from onset, I want to appreciate you for giving me this opportunity to contribute. And Mr. Speaker, there's nothing as good as transparent in any in governance. And Mr. Speaker, this Public Finance Management Amendment Bill seeks to do exactly that by making sure that it strengthens the public finance management framework. And therefore, most of the issues that are going to be addressed in this amendment, Mr. Speaker, being compliance, accounting, and governance, they all work towards strengthening governance by making sure that every detail or every work done is well managed. And therefore, because it is time for the mover to reply, I also say that I support this amendment. Thank you.
Fair enough. My screen doesn't show anybody else who has any interest. I now call upon the mover to reply. Mover to reply.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I rise to reply. And Honorable Speaker, allow me to appreciate all the contributions made. To an extent, I would want to agree with Honorable Oundo on the question of pending bills. It's important that we are able to settle our pending bills. But Honorable Oundo does know that under this same act, the Public Finance Management Act, pending bills constitute the first charge to the Exchequer. And therefore, that's the only point of variance on using the pending bills as part of our public debt, since they are not part of the public debt, since it will be, by law, they are supposed to be the first charge to the Exchequer. And now with accrual accounting, then we also cure some of those problems with pending bills, because what has been happening is that at the end of every financial year, when people have not been paid, those bills automatically become pending bills. But with accrual accounting now, we'll be able to, in a big way, be able to sort out many of those issues. To Honorable Speaker, and I did engage with the Deputy Leader of Minority on the provisions around the amendment around Clause 50 of the bill, Section 50. If you carefully read what is in 2C versus what was in 2C in the Principal Act, the Principal Act said that the Cabinet Secretary shall not later than 5 years from the date of coming into force of subsection 2A and 2B that set the threshold of 55 and plus 5%, take measures to ensure that borrowing by the national government complies with the threshold prescribed in subsection 2A. What that meant, Honorable Speaker, is that the Cabinet Secretary had 5 years to ensure that we comply. But as we speak, we are in breach of the law that we created ourselves. And this particular amendment came from the advice of the Attorney General that we are actually in breach of the law that we set. And that is why it was now rewarded to say that the Cabinet Secretary shall not later than 5 years from the date of coming into force of this Act take measures to ensure that the borrowing by the national government complies with the threshold prescribed in subsection 2A. Just to create that room that within that period of 5 years, the country will not be considered to be in breach of the law, since we have that 5-year period within which we must correct what was already in breach, Honorable Speaker, because as I said, as at the time we enacted this particular amendment, we were already in breach, and that breach has continued, and that's why the Attorney General did advise that we reward that particular section so that we're in compliance with the law. And with that, thank you to all the members who have contributed, and I therefore beg to reply. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, the chair directs that the question be put at a convenient date in the future. And I now call on the next order.
Order number 14, the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 48 of 2024, second reading.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Finance. National Planning, yes, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment Bill of 2024 be now read a second time. This bill, Honorable Speaker, embodies our commitment to fostering economic inclusivity, promoting local enterprises, and ensuring that public procurement serves as a strategic tool for national development. By addressing, Honorable Speaker, inefficiencies, by introducing clarity, and by reinforcing accountability, this amendment bill aligns with best practice globally while tailoring solutions to the unique needs of our nation. Mr. Speaker, public procurement accounts for a significant portion of our gross domestic product, our GDP. As it has been articulated by economists such as Keynesian, government spending is a vital tool for stimulating economic activity. By channeling resources through a fair, transparent, and equitable procurement systems, this bill will not only reduce market inefficiencies, but also be a catalyst for economic growth of our great republic. Clause 4, Honorable Speaker, and Clause 10 reflect on the deliberate effort to integrate local content policies, a cornerstone of industrial development in many emerging economies. Michael Porter on competitive advantage will tell you that this will foster local industries and enhance value addition, build competitive industries, and strengthen the domestic economy. Honorable Speaker, prioritizing local goods and services in procurement is not merely patriotic, but it is economically prudent. Mr. Speaker, the provisions of Clause 11 and related clauses are to reserve specific procurement thresholds for local firms, which is a recognition of the structural challenges that are faced by Kenyan contractors. Historically, Kenyan contractors have been sidelined in favor of foreign firms. even for contracts well within the capacity of our local contractors. By reserving contracts that are Kenya shillings, 1 billion shillings or less for local firms and ensuring joint ventures for larger contracts, we aim to create a level playing field. This approach, Honorable Speaker, is consistent with the principle of comparative advantage that ensures that domestic firms build expertise in areas where they are best positioned. Moreover, Honorable Speaker, incentivizing joint ventures with a mandatory 30% local participation ensures technology transfer and capacity building. Honorable Speaker, this bill expressly says that contracts that are 1 billion shillings and below shall be reserved to local contractors, unless there is no availability of expertise or technology in Kenya, which the bill envisions there wouldn't. But for contracts that are above 1 billion shillings, we are also making it a requirement that they must enter into a joint venture with a Kenyan firm and get 30% of that venture be owned by Kenya. We are also outlining that there must be technology transfer where we do not have, because we cannot continue to have the hard-earned resources of this country benefiting other people from other countries. We should make sure that the resources of this country, through proper public procurement, remains here so that they ensure economic growth for our country, Honorable Speaker. This bill, Honorable Speaker, also is seeking to foster transparency and accountability. Transparency, Honorable Speaker, is a linchpin of good governance, as it is outlined in best practices such as the Open Contracting Data Standards, OCDCS. Public procurement systems must prioritize openness and accessibility to curb corruption and inefficiency. By requiring proper documentation and public disclosures, this bill will ensure that there is trust in the procurement process, which is very critical for economic and political stability. Clause 13, which expounds on the clarification of tenders, is a practical measure to eliminate ambiguities that often lead to disputes or unfair practices. If you read clause 22, it underscores the importance of compliance by accounting officers, emphasizing their roles as custodians of public goods. This bill, Honorable Speaker, is restoring the responsibility of procurement, not just on the accounting officer, but the head of the procurement in that particular entity. Because sometimes when mistakes do happen, we see the liability falls on the accounting officer, Honorable Speaker, whereas the procurement has been done by the head of procurement, Honorable Speaker. And secondly, any misappropriate in a tender document, in a tender, Honorable Speaker, will also impose the criminality to the beneficiary of that tender, so that both the beneficiary, the accounting officer, and the officer who breached the law, Honorable Speaker, all become accountable, because these are the custodians of our public funds. On matters of addressing a delayed payment, Honorable Speaker, clause 30 of the bill is seeking to address the chronic issue of delayed payments, a problem that has perpetuated economic stagnation among local contractors. It is disheartening to see every Thursday, Honorable Speaker, businesses being auctioned. And we check the kind of businesses being auctioned. There are people with excavators, there are people with tippers, there are people, and you can tell what kind of business these people do, Honorable Speaker. Delayed payments, Honorable Speaker, not only cripple businesses, but also cripple public trust in government systems. So ensuring that there is timely payment, which is defined here as payment within the quarter, will inject liquidity into the economy and foster a more vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem. This, Honorable Speaker, will align with the liquidity preference, Honorable Speaker, which highlights the importance of cash flow for sustaining economic activity. Efficient payment systems are not merely administrative reforms, but they are critical economic interventions. Honorable Speaker, this bill is also seeking to expand opportunities for citizen contractors. As I've explained, the proposal to increase maximum contract amount for citizen contractors from 500 million shillings, as currently provided for in the law, to 1 billion shillings is a very significant milestone. This adjustment also reflects an acknowledgement of the evolving capacity of our local firms and their readiness to undertake larger projects that are of benefit to this republic. By therefore aligning procurement laws with these economic realities, we are going to empower local contractors to scale their operations, to create jobs, and to contribute meaningfully to national development. Honorable Speaker, the bill is also ensuring that public procurement becomes a tool for inclusive growth. The introduction of penalties for individuals who fraudulently register companies on behalf of foreigners is a bold step towards eliminating anti-competitive practices. Monopolies and unfair competition undermine the principles of market economics, as articulated by Adam Smith, if you're a student of economics like me, in the book of Wealth of Nations. This bill, therefore, seeks to promote healthy competition for the benefit of all stakeholders. What you've seen, Honorable Speaker, is we have international companies or international coming to Kenya and registering as local contractors. And they go and pick, we have Chinese contractors who will come, they will pick the IDs of some young people, they register as local contractors, and they get to benefit on this contract that should be given to these young people, Honorable Speaker. We've seen in cases where matters have been taken to court, and you see the person who is taken to court as the directors of these particular companies have no knowledge whatsoever about the running of that company, which means it is just somebody else using their identity, Honorable Speaker, to take advantage of the procurement process and benefit. And therefore, this will prohibit that, Honorable Speaker. This bill is also providing for a technology advancement and skills transfer, where we are emphasizing on technology and skills transfer in clause 4 and 10, which is very forward-looking. By leveraging foreign contracts to build local capacity, we ensure that Kenya reaps both immediate and long-term benefits from international collaborations. This policy, Honorable Speaker, will align with the principles of endogenous growth theory, which underscores the role of innovation and knowledge in driving sustainable development. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, this bill is more than an amendment. It is a statement of intent. It aligns our procurement laws with evolving economies, technological and governance needs, ensuring that public procurement supports our national development goals. By fostering transparency, building local capacity, and addressing inefficiencies, we will position Kenya as a model of economic resilience and inclusivity. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, I beg to thank the members of the Departmental Committee of Finance and National Planning, because this was a private member's bill. I've been working on this bill for a few years now, since last Parliament, and I was able to convince the Committee of Finance and National Planning to adopt it as a committee bill so that we can fast-track it. And I'm really hoping that this Honorable House will really consider this bill and make sure that we protect our local contractors, we grow our economy, we build our capacity, and ensure that there's technology transfer. There is no Honorable Speaker, where even things like accessible stamps that we use by KRA on our bottles everywhere is supplied by a multinational. This does not, yes, the service comes to us, but all the revenue goes back to that particular country, Honorable Speaker. But now, once we work on this together, we are going to make sure that we achieve, we make Kenya, we position Kenya as that model of economic resilience and inclusivity. With that, I beg to move, Honorable Speaker, and request the Leader of Majority Party to second. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to second this bill. And since the chair of the committee has very well articulated the provisions of this bill and the real intent of the bill, allow me also to thank the Committee on Finance for having adopted this bill as a committee bill. And it indeed addresses very critical issues in our economy. And principally, Honorable Speaker, this bill is creating or prescribing a threshold of procurements which shall, and the word, as famously been said, it is the word shall, mandatory shall, be awarded to local firms in order to promote the growth of local enterprises and local industry. Honorable Speaker, if you look at clause 21 of this bill, it seeks to amend section 149 of the Principal Act, that is the Public Procurement and Disposal Act of 2015, to task the Public Procurement Authority, which is referred to as the authority there, to ensure also that that priority is given to citizen contractors in the subcontracting of tenders. Honorable Speaker, you know the problems that local contractors and local entrepreneurs have found themselves in. And Honorable Speaker, last week, when the President delivered the State of the Nation address to this House and to the nation, he did direct that within the first quarter of next year, e-procurement must become a reality. Honorable Speaker, I was very encouraged because if we want to deal with the elephant in our room in this country called corruption, which we keep talking about, and we have said we have spoken and talked about corruption forever. Children go to school, they grow up, they become old men, and they find people talking about corruption, and they start talking about corruption themselves. Then they become corrupt. And that is what bedevils our country, Honorable Speaker. It is time we stopped talking about corruption and acted over corruption. And I must commend that what the President did direct last week, that e-procurement becomes a reality and not an aspiration. That is the way to go to ensure that we are no longer just speaking and talking about corruption. We are doing something to deal with corruption. Because digitization, Honorable Speaker, and moving to e-procurement will cure in a big way all the issues we have around corruption, around the space of procurement. Because there is no corruption always begins at procurement in any organization, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, as we do that, many of our contractors, many of our entrepreneurs have lost opportunities to grow as entrepreneurs, have lost opportunities to be awarded government contracts and tenders, be it at the national government level or even at the county government level, and even in state corporations, because those with financial muscle coming from outside the country have more money to grease the hands of procurement officers in various entities. And therefore, it is important that we put it in law, that there is a certain threshold of procurement that can never go to other people other than our local entrepreneurs, Honorable Speaker. Because we have very many people who have capacity, who are able to contract, but they never get that opportunity. Two, Honorable Speaker, and that's why I had particular mention to Clause 21, is you find a situation where you get a huge tender worth hundreds of billions of shillings, and they are subcontractors, but the main contractor who's coming from outside also comes with other subcontractors from their countries. And this is the case, Honorable Speaker, especially in donor-funded projects. Honorable Speaker, I was wondering who is whistling. But it has gone quiet. That happens especially with donor-funded projects, Honorable Speaker, because you find a donor who is financing the construction of a huge highway, maybe from CBD to Moyale, and is being funded by a foreign donor or a friendly country, and they insist that the contractor must be from their country. But you find in between, there is a contract for bush clearing, or even for doing road earthworks. And they also bring people to do bush clearing and subcontract other companies from their countries. That will be a thing of the past, Honorable Speaker, with the enactment of this bill. That if there is work to be subcontracted at certain levels, you can never subcontract it to people who are not local entrepreneurs, because that is the only way we will ensure that there is also transfer of skills. And Honorable Speaker, the bill also speaks to transfer of skills and technology to ensure that if there is specialized jobs, we have just come from the era of Adani. If Adani, for instance, has specialization in the construction and running and management of airports, we need to have local entrepreneurs protected by law to ensure that if it is the construction of aprons, there is transfer of technology and skills in the construction, so that years after our generation, our children will not go look for another Adani or other foreigners to come and build their airport. They will have transferred skills. This is the tragedy that befell this country with the construction of the SGR railway. And I remember, Honorable Speaker, because I was here as a member of the Public Investments Committee, part of the things that we insisted on to be done in the report that we tabled before this House was to ensure that there were subcontracts that were being given to local entrepreneurs. But because there was no law, it was just a recommendation of the parliamentary committee, it was never done. So today, if we want to extend the railway from where it ends nowhere, somewhere they call the railway to nowhere, in a bush somewhere near Naivasha. If we are to extend that railway today, as the intent is to Malaba, you have no local contractors with the expertise and the technology in the construction of rail. But if only 10 years ago, we had insisted, this law was there, and we had insisted that local entrepreneurs as subcontracted would be having people today with the technology and the skills in the construction of rail, and therefore we would have benefited local contractors. I do hope that by the time we are constructing JKIA, by the time we get a new PPP partner to construct JKIA, this law will be in place. By the time we are doing a new SGR, this law will be in place. By the time we are doing another contract to transmit power, this law will be in place. And whichever other partners come in and they come with skills, there's a process through which that we can transfer skills, we can transfer knowledge, and we empower our local contractors and entrepreneurs, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, I want to support this bill. I don't want to say much to allow others opportunity to speak because the mover did speak in great detail. And also thank the committee for having considered this bill and seen the need to have a bill that protects our local entrepreneurs, one that ensures that we are not giving all government contracts and tenders to outsiders, that we are also encouraging our own people and our entrepreneurs and industry to grow by giving them jobs in government. Honorable Speaker, the greatest spender of resources is government. If enterprises and industries to grow in this country, it must be grown by government in their spending. If we are to check on our rationalize or other manage our foreign exchange reserves and our foreign exchange rate, is to ensure that unlike what is going on, has been going on in the past, that you give contracts, some contracts are given to foreigners, and the people financing them insist on paying them outside this country. And we end up expatriating a lot of our money outside this country. But if we have laws that make sure that many of these, some of these contracts are done by locals, that money will stay in this country. They will employ our local people. Look at this expressway when it was being built. Even handsmen came from foreign countries. Work that could be done by Kenyans. If we had transferred skills and technology to build expressways, those that Kenyans have said, ile barabara ya gorofa. If we had those skills with our local contractors, Honorable Speaker, they will employ our local people, they will employ our own people. And all the money they make will be left in this country to grow our economy. And with that, let me thank the Chair and the Committee on Finance for having brought this bill, and I beg to second, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I now propose a question that the Public Finance Management Amendment number 4 bill, Amendment Bill number. Honorable members, I now propose a question that the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 48 of 2024 be now read a second time. The Honorable Passaris Esther, are you still interested? Because I see you at the top of the...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. I actually was also wanting to speak to the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, which has already been closed. But I want to say that I commend the chairperson of the Department Committee on Finance and National Planning. It is important, if we want to actually deal with corruption, that we streamline how we procure And streamlining how we procure means that we need the right legislation in place. And it's obvious with the kind of corruption we have and the existing pending bills that we have, that there is a problem and a gap in the law. And I commend both the Majority Leader and the Committee of Finance and National Planning for looking at a holistic view to dealing with how government manages its expenses. It is really sad to note that as at today, we cannot really tell from one government to the next how much we owe Kenyans out there. You know, it is such a shame that the pending bills continue to grow. Kenyans are left to languish in poverty. They borrow money, and they're not able to sustain their businesses because we are not paying them their money in due time. And when I look at both of them in totality, I mean, they're more or less tied because it starts with procurement and then it goes into payments. So if all procurements are going to be captured in real time, then when the supplies are made and the invoices are raised, they're all captured in real time. And if they're captured in real time, then this hanky-panky that happens in all our government offices, where you have to cough something before you can get paid, will have to come to an end. Because the system itself will be able to stop a payment for somebody today who is being induced, who has induced so that he gets paid, and ensure that the one who is justified to get paid is paid. But this is also going to be crucial for us to know our exposure in terms of debt domestically. Because we know what we owe our foreign debt, but our local debt is in the millions. And I believe once these bills are passed and streamlined, we will be able to have prudent procurement processes. And I know that such things are going to be fought. And I really pray that if they are going to be fought, and I know that the Finance Committee normally does its work really thoroughly, they will be in a position to defend it because we need systems that are going to work. We need to make sure that procurement protects the local investor. We need to make sure that persons living with disability are also able to be protected. Women, we've said that 30% should go to women. We need to make sure that we have a holistic way of looking at all the processes so that we make sure that anyone who is actually in the procurement is covered. We don't want anyone exploiting persons with disability. We don't want anyone exploiting the youth. We don't want anyone exploiting the women. We also want them to have their fair quota. We want also, when these systems are put in place, it will actually enable most of these young budding entrepreneurs to be able to get government funding. Government funding through financial institutions, because the government LPO will be having some value. Today, a number of banks are not willing to finance government procurements because there is no set system of payment. They have seen so many pending bills, and that have actually not only made the people who go into business not have the money, but they've been financed by financial institutions. So it has a ripple effect of actually making our economy grind to a halt. So when we have these stringent laws in place and the stringent payment policies in place, we will ensure that nobody who has supplied government is having a delay in getting the money. Nobody who is got a procurement LPO has got one that is not backed with the strength of government. Whether it's a devolved government, whether it's the national government, we need to protect the Kenyans who are doing business with government. And the only way to do that is to ensure that we strengthen our laws. So I want to stand here and support the amendments and to thank the committees and the majority leader for coming up with these amendments so that we can strengthen our laws and our financial management as a country. Thank you.
The Honorable Mary, MP for Tinderet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Chair, Finance Committee and Economic Planning for the National Assembly for this very important bill. This bill goes a long way to promote national development, to promote transparency, to promote competitiveness, and more importantly, to allow local contractors to really thrive. As said by the majority leader, local contractors whose economic muscle is a bit lower than the international contractors have actually been muzzled every other time when the international contractors take up. The bill, I want to just say that this bill is very important. I want to look at clause 4 of the bill. It seeks to amend section 9 of the Act to ensure that the authority monitors and evaluates technology, knowledge, and skills of the transfer programs. Every other time, Mr. Speaker, when an entity is building roads or building airports or even doing a lot of activities in this country, the State Department for TVET, or Technical Education, is supposed to actually liaise with the contractor so that the local skills, the skilled men, the local artisans, the local engineers can appropriately fill into the contractual framework of the foreign contractor. In this case, it will actually make sure that any foreign contractor or any foreign investor comes in and tap into the skills of our country and therefore provide employment to the young men who are in this nation. In clause 5, the bill seeks to amend section 10 of the Act in order to include representative from the Law Society of Kenya or a member of the board. In this particular case, there are so many issues that happen where the laws and the adherence to the local procurement procedures are not taken into. But by allowing a member of the legal profession, a member of the Law Society of Kenya, this one is going to actually allow a lot of good oversight work. Clause 8 of the bill seeks to repeal Section 40 of the Act in order to enable investigations to proceed despite the fact that the issues. I just want to look at Clause 28, Mr. Speaker. In Clause 25 of the bill, it seeks to amend Sections 175 of the Act in order to align the provisions of the Act to the Court of Appeal as Organization Administration Act, Procedures Act. At times, we have seen cases going to court, a number of them. And every other time, when a ruling has been done, this will actually reduce a lot of litigations going along amongst many contractual activities, which has costed this country a lot of money. It has caused delays in the construction of works, and at times promote loss of time, loss of money by litigating on almost every aspect of contractual work. In effect, at times, contractors leave their properties on site and will always attract interest. Mr. Speaker, there is this issue of local contractors. This bill tries to promote, to ensure that any contract of less than 1 billion or up to 1 billion be awarded to local contractors. This will ensure that our local contractors are not competed out of the market by international contractors. As we speak now, the bill recognizes that 500 million shillings, every local contractor can bid up to 500. But because of competition from international contractors, now they have a legroom where they can bid for tenders up to 1 billion shillings, which will promote local business. Honorable Speaker, the issue of e-procurement is very important in our country. It will promote transparency. It will make sure that every procurement, public procurement, will actually be seen on the portal. And the procedures that are there will be transparent, and even all the way from bidding up to the award level. It actually be on the e-platform. And this will actually give our country and even the contractors enough confidence in government procurement procedures. As we speak now, there's a lot of low confidence in government procurement procedures because every other time the contractors and those who are bidding will always tend to think that there is a group that is favored by the institution or by the organization against the required procurement procedures. Honorable Speaker, we also, this bill also seeks to actually ensure that this bill also seeks to amend the Public Procurement and Disposal Act to prescribe the threshold of procurement to be awarded to the local firms and also local skilled men. The majority leader has just said that at times, when the Nairobi Expressway was constructed, or majority of the internationally funded or donor-funded roads or projects, the donor nation or the donor will always give very stringent requirement that one, they need to make sure that they give the farm from the country of origin or the donating nation. Or two, certain skilled men come also from that particular country. By so doing, it will actually kill the morale, the spirit, and even the ability of Kenyans that we have very good engineers that can be able to even design and to even work on these projects even than foreign workers. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, the bill also seeks to amend Section 50 of the Act in order to provide for the offenses with regard to contract administration. At times, Honorable Speaker, some local Kenyans, for example, can be induced by foreigners to register companies on their behalf, that they will look that they are actually local, but in extent it is foreign-owned. This bill seeks to punish such kind of individuals who will actually want to aid or to actually assist unduly foreign ownership, but locally they register in the name of the local names or local individuals. This bill actually seeks to ensure that if a foreigner is actually registering, then they always try to do partnership with the local contractors. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support and I ask the House to really support this bill for the good of our country and for the good of the business of the nation. Thank you.
The Honorable Wamuchomba.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this wonderful bill. I, by the grace of God, was here in the last parliament, and I know the zeal and the desire the Honorable Kuria Kimani had to have this bill materialize to a law. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, so we have an opportunity to make Honorable Kimani